Hey man, how's it going?
Snowpocalyptic. How are you
I
doing?
guess so, man. Right. I was a little bit late. It's gonna sound weird, but I had to go to the graveyard to meet somebody, and it took a little bit longer than expected. So we're good to go now.
Is that your Pokemon adventure?
Yes, socially distant trading, and a guy had something I needed. He had something that vice versa, and
Hmm.
it was like he was coming from one side of town, I was coming from the other side of town, and I'm like, dude, I'll meet you there, but I got to be somewhere at 10:30. He was like, oh, no, no. So it ended up being late, but we're all good now. So
So now, how does that work? I mean, do you still get out and walk around just with like a mask on? Do you just drive around all the time
no, I
in the car?
no, it's too cold to walk around. I just drive around. We've got a humongous cemetery here in Charlotte that has like 55 Pokestops in it, and so you can just make laps around it.
Wow. So driving around the whole time.
Yeah, driving around the whole time. Yeah, just driving around the cemetery.
That's a lot of Pokestops. That's
So
great.
think of like the Rose City Cemetery, over there on like 57th and Fremont ish.
Yeah, for sure. Where the devil's face is in the marble.
Yes, think of that, but like twice or three times that big.
Wow, nice.
And there's like 55. Yeah, I think there's 54 Pokestops and four jams.
And just like that Rose City one, that's just a public, open to the public. You can
Yeah,
just walk
open
around
to
if
the
you want
public.
to.
Just yeah.
Now nobody gives you guys grief for wandering around.
Actually, the cops like us because with all the headlights and all the traffic, it keeps the homeless people out of there. They say. So,
You
because it's kind of hard to sleep when people are always constantly driving around and headlights and
I guess, but I mean, based on some of the camping locations that I see around this town, that does not seem to be the issue.
right.
That seems to be tolerated.
And the
Uh,
Pokemon players in our town are pretty goody two shoes. They like will see trash in the graveyard and pick it up and throw it away.
that's
So, um,
I mean that's just people that care about their community, so that's
right.
nice. I mean,
And it's like a really cool place to play Pokemon. So nobody wants to be the one that screwed it up. So,
and that's a nice feeling. You know what I'm saying? And that's it a similar feeling I have for something I like to do, which is mountain biking, and that's something that has been tolerated in this town, like barely at best. And it's always been something where most trails are not open to being cycled on, um, and then the ones that are are kind of limited, which is ironic, which is what we like in this town of Portland. We like our irony. So
right.
we're a very bicycle friendly town as long as you're not a mountain biker.
Gotcha.
Right. And so there is some access, but the problem that I have that's similar to what you talk about, like of shitting in your own yard, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
There's a local hill that is is in the city of Portland, and it is just a city park. That's all it is. It is a city park. It happens to have a hill on it. And I've ridden my. That's where I started mountain biking
Right.
a long time ago, and way back then there was just nobody in the city, and so by default there was nobody in the park. But now there's lots of people in the city, and so there's lots
By
of
default, there's lots of people in the park.
yeah. And it's similar to like my beef with snowboarders, maybe that there's like this lack of etiquette by my fellow mountain bikers that
Mm-hmm.
I fear is going to get us thrown out of there completely. Because like we've barely
Well, because
tolerated it at all. You know what I'm saying? Over time.
so yeah, the mountain biker demographic is probably a lot younger than you. No offense, right?
It's fine, but yes.
Um,
Uh,
but when you started mountain biking, you were like in the prime demographic. 15 or so years ago, you were like the guy they were like trying to sell all the bikes to.
I mean, I guess that's the thing about the mountain bike industry is that I mean, they target people from 8 to 80.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and especially, and this will segue nice. Uh, it's not a segue, but it's a bike. Um, the e-bike phenomenon.
Mhm. Yeah, we
And
talked about that a little bit.
yeah, which I mean, kind of ties into the same idea of screwing up, shitting in your own yard. So my whole idea here, when I first started this whole ramble, was that like mountain biking access in Portland is tenuous at best and barely tolerated. Um, and they just, I mean, I've been thrown out of city parks for riding on the wrong trail, escorted out by park rangers when
For riding on the wrong trail?
yeah, and like they walked me past like a whole tent compound. I'm like, what's up with all that? And they're like, oh, we already talked to them. I'm like, oh, did a lot of good. So you're just moving on to me now. So anyway, like mountain biking is just not tolerated in Portland, and except for a very, very few places. And one of those
Which
places
is so interesting because it's like such an outdoorsy place.
it is, but mountain biking is too bro-ish. You know, it's too Red Bull Rampage and you know, do you do the do? And those things are not Portland. You know what I'm saying? They're not hip Portland.
They want more. They want more like the cycling type of people, right?
Well, they want like road cyclists. You know, like in North Carolina is a huge mountain biking town.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember the name of the. It was like the DuPont State Forest.
Yeah, sounds familiar. Like Asheville area. There's lots of hills and such up there.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of places there. It's like a big, but I mean, they actually embrace it. You know, they, whereas Portland shuns it for, you know, like, which is sad because they could make such an industry out of it. It would be ridiculous, but they don't want that industry. Again, it attracts the wrong type of people to Portland. And you know, it doesn't attract, I don't know what, but it attracts dudes that like to go mountain biking and dudettes and ladies and whomever. But they don't want that there for whatever reason. If you're a road rider, you're welcome as pie to ride anywhere in Portland, and be damned how many people are waiting behind you to get around you in their car. You're good.
Where a mountain biker, you are off the road.
If you ride your mountain bike on the road, you're good to go. But if you ride, you know, and there again another layer of irony. If you ride your road bike in the dirt, that's cool because that's called cyclocross, and that's a hipster sport where I've seen, dude, I'm telling you, I've seen two dudes training on their, it's essentially a road bicycle like you'd see like in the Tour de France,
mm-hmm.
but their tires are more knobby, you know, instead of slick road tires, they have little knobs on them. And so they're designed to ride in the dirt as well as the cement, which is neat and all. And it's a whole sport onto itself. But again, you know, I mean, it's kind of more accepted as like a roadie thing, you know, a road riding thing. If you're a commuter in Portland, you're embraced. If you're a road cyclist in Portland, like the Tour de France kind of riders and their spandex, and you're take the lane, you know, and you're doing the whole thing, that's totally acceptable. But again,
I had no idea there was such nuance when it came to the community of bikers. I had no clue. No,
for real. And it's, you know, it's only because I'm involved in one side of it that I care at all, I guess.
Right.
But because that access is so limited here, you know, I appreciate any access we have, and I ride according to how I was raised to ride. There's certain etiquette in the biking world where, and not even in the biking world, like it is explicitly laid out, like at the trailhead and on every trailhead, there's like little markers that show, because it's a multi-use trail. There's people walking,
right?
There's people on their horses, and there's people on their bikes, and there's a whole system, and there's a little triangle cute diagram that shows who is supposed to yield to whom. Gotcha. The easy way to look at it, bicycles have to yield to everybody, and so
who has the right of way? The people or the horses?
Pedestrians always have right of way,
mm-hmm.
Then horses,
and then bikes,
and then lowly bikes. Which fine, that's the way it's always been, and I've always ridden that way. And then also up and downhill rules, because again, people are going both directions. People are walking, riding, whatever, going up and down the trail. And so because of that, you are supposed to yield to uphill traffic. So if you're bombing your bicycle down the trail 100 miles an hour, you are supposed to yield to anybody coming up the trail.
Isn't that a little bit dangerous if you're going downhill?
It's almost like you have to ride in control.
I mean, if I'm going, okay.
You have to be able to stop.
Yeah. So I'm not a mountain biker. I'm not a mountain biker at all. I've probably been on a mountain bike 10 times, right? And not anything dangerous or cool or fun, probably. But if I look at it like a ski hill, that's like saying if I'm skiing downhill, I have to yield to people walking up the mountain. Wouldn't the people going up need to yield or move to the right to the people who are coming down kind of fast? I mean, I'm just thinking
No,
common
no,
sense. Like I'm not involved in the community, but I'm thinking.
but you are. And if you were to, and here's the thing, because, and this is all leads into like with e-bikes and everything else, the amount of access that we have now where, if you can get on a bike, you can go ride any of these trails, and all the bikes now are super duper neat bikes. They're all, I mean, even the crappiest bike you can buy from Walmart is an amazing bicycle. It has disc brakes and shocks and forks and suspension. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're amazing bicycles for cheap. And so folks get out there on the trails and they kind of don't know what they're doing. And so they bomb down a hill,
Right.
expecting that everybody is supposed to get out of their way when that's not how those rules work.
That's not how any of this works.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of education. Boom, you learn that real quick, and now you would know. But a lot of folks don't, and so just by sheer volume of people using the park, and because bicycles are now so capable, meaning that they can ride, that any dipstick that can ride a bike can get on one of a modern mountain bike and really be able to run over a lot of stuff.
Right.
Because the bike is very capable, and all you have to do is kind of hang on a little bit and have very basic bicycle skills, and you can run over a lot of stuff. Whereas in the past, before all the neat modern mountain bike parts making it easier, you had to be able to have those skills on your own to do it.
So it was kind of like we talked about a couple of shows ago about skis, about how now you can get on a pair of skis because of the technology, and you can be really dangerous, and you don't even really have to know how to ski. And back in the day, the technology wasn't great, and you had to actually ski down the mountain. Is that kind of similar?
There's spot on. I mean, there's just a steeper learning curve with the older equipment. It was a steeper learning curve. It was a lot harder to get better. Mm-hmm. And so you spent so much more time trying to get better that in doing so, you just get more experience being in that environment and learning all the etiquette and the rules along the way. Whereas now, say with an e-bike, I mean, like this is just on the little small trail, like I'm talking about, the local hill, and people are getting a little out of hand. I mean, people are bombing down these trails on mountain bikes now. I mean, and they're expecting people are going to get out of the way, and you're like, dude, that's not how this works at all.
Right.
I mean, you're talking. I mean, you come bombing around the corner and there's a horse standing there. What you going to do? You going to go bomb into the horse? I mean,
right. Yeah.
No. And so. Or if there's an old lady, I mean, or if there's a kid, if there's anybody, that's the whole idea, is that you're supposed to ride in control.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you one question, and then we need to kind of go back and do our introduction. Let me ask you a quick question. With Corona, with COVID, have you seen more people out walking on trails than you had before, who normally they'd be in a mall or they'd be doing X, Y, or Z, but now they're out in the park on the hill?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
1,000%. And I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, I just checked a picture of like the local ski resort, and they have like the camera, the mountain cam.
Mountain cam. Yeah, I remember that.
Dude, and there's like a camera, showing like the main lift at the base area.
And it's just
a mosh pit. I mean, there had to be 200 people standing around.
Oh God.
Okay, yeah, I get it. Whilst skiing, you are in the wide open. For sure. Absolutely you are. But not there, you ain't.
No, you're not.
And
well, technically, they're wearing a mask.
Oh, I'm sure that's super enforced. Allegedly, it is. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, man.
Just with the ski gear. Doesn't the ski gear come with the mask, though? Like the helmet, doesn't it come with the mask?
Not by default, no. I mean, people either wear a bandana or a kerchief or a head sock kind of thing. I've worn those before that kind of cover your face. But, dude, I mean, if you've ever stood in a whole group outside, I mean, you just see all the breath puffing up in the air. Like, I mean, if you're,
I just so you, in case you're wondering, I have a ski mask.
Nice, good, always good to have one.
I keep it just in case. You never know when you'll need it.
No, for sure. I I just wanted to make that last little point with all this easy access and getting in over your head, perhaps. And like you said, folks on the trail. I mean, that was one thing I noticed towards the end of the summer when I was riding at the other place that is a much more dedicated downhill mountain biking kind of place that is not for hiking. It is not for horsies.
Mm-hmm.
It's not supposed to be for your dog either. But um, but that whole thing again, I've been riding there for 6 or 7 years. And when I started riding there prior to e-bikes, I mean, there's a price of admission in this place where you have to climb 2 miles to the halfway point or 4 miles to the top
Right.
on a paved road that is pretty darn steep.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you gain like 13 or 1400 feet. So I don't know what
Elevation. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then you go downhill, and from it's a big ride for me. It is. I mean, for super studs and super stud ladies, my power might come on.
Saw that flicker.
Come on, power. There's a lot of unfortunate folks in my area that are without power. So hopefully they get their power back quick and mine stays on the whole time.
Yes.
Where was I?
You said the ride is kind of for like super stud dudes and super stud ladies. It's not a big deal, but
well, I mean, but I mean, again, you're talking about like some pretty amazing athletes at that point. But for normal humans, it's a pretty big ride, and it's a fairly legitimate downhill excuse me, experience. And the point is, the higher up the mountain you go, if you go to the halfway point, that's like the intermediate way down. If you go to the top, it gets harder.
Yeah.
And
the expert run.
Yeah. And
tell me this: is it just like straight down, or are you like going left and right, or
there are? It's something that honestly anybody, again, if you have basic bike skills and you were on a proper mountain bike, a modern proper mountain bike, that's what's crazy, is that anybody could ride it. There's nothing that is so crazy that you can't go. You can always stop and walk it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If there's if there's a section that's nuts, you can stop it, or there's like an easy way around usually. That like you'll see on the trail, there's like an easy way to go around it if you don't want to go over the big crazy thing. And so that's nice because I've been on trails where there is no easy way around, and you're just like, F. I mean,
right. Where you got to go straight down, right?
Well, it's not necessarily straight down. I mean, it's just big technical things like rocks or roots or
gotcha.
And yes, the downhill part is mixed in with all that too. Or there's things like jumps and gaps. There's bridges. There's long extension wooden
water.
There's water stuff to go through. All sorts of fun things. That's the whole point. And you got to know when to say when. And there's no shame. There's no shame.
Right.
And stopping and saying F it and I get off and walk on every ride. There's the same spot. I've ridden it 4 times. And the final time I went over the bars onto my head. And I was like, probably shouldn't stop it.
Yeah.
And I felt like a give up, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But oh well, it was, Yeah. You got to know when to say.
You got to know your limits.
Right. So speaking of that, because I'm old and I've been riding a long time, I'm familiar with that concept of knowing my limits, and I still push them. That's the whole idea of riding. It's fun to push those limits. And as I get older, the consequences take longer to,
heal from.
Oh, yeah. But with the modern technology, and it allows you to really do some pretty neat stuff. But you had to ride up there in the first place. So there was kind of this idea of like, you got to be at a certain, even if you walk your ass up to there, you still got to be a certain in fitness level to even walk your butt all the way up to the trailhead. So if you can do that, you can coast yourself down it. But the thing is now with e-bikes, like people will ride up that hill on an e-bike 35 miles an hour. It's nuts. Mm-hmm. And then I've seen people get to the top, and I mean, you can tell clearly they have no idea what they're doing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But they've got all the technology in the world. They just don't know how to use it.
Yeah, I mean, either somebody bought it for them, or like you can rent bikes, like in the parking lot. Companies will set up demos, so you can come and ride one of their bikes for the afternoon, which is really neat. But people who don't know what they're doing get on an e-bike, pedal all the way up to the top without even breaking a sweat. You know what I'm saying? They're like, cool, I'm ready to go mountain biking. And you're like, are you? Because here it comes. And you know, I don't know. I think that people can get themselves way over their head. At the same time, those e-bikes are amazing. You know, I mean, they're making them to where there's hardly any weight penalty, and you've got essentially an electric motorcycle. And that's kind of cool.
And they're fast.
Oh, dude, they're crazy. I mean, yeah. I've seen videos of like the Red Bulls people make videos of them climbing things now. It's not about, I mean, because they've conquered everything going downhill.
Right. Now they're conquering going the other way.
Oh, it's crazy. I mean, riding just straight up stuff. And you're like, that seems normal. That's a bike.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember 20 years ago now, when we lived in that house on Alberta or Wygan or wherever the hell it was.
Sure.
And you took that spill over your handlebars.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you kind of knocked yourself silly for a minute. And you were having some trouble remembering some stuff. And I was like, back then, like, we never went to the hospital. We were like 23 years old. We had
insurance too.
Was that?
I didn't have insurance at that time.
But yeah. But I mean, we were kind of unbreakable. Nowadays, it'd be like, somebody call me an ambulance. But no, so when you say that, you know, people don't kind of understand it, I mean, you have always been like a student of the game when it comes to like skiing and when it comes to biking. I mean, as far back as I can remember, you respected it the way it needed to be respected. You talked.
I got into it old though. You know, I started skiing. I started skiing like when I was like 22 or 23. I started mountain biking at the same age.
But you had a respect for it.
That's why, because I was old already.
Right.
Relatively.
Yeah, relatively.
That's a baby now, of course. But
yeah.
You know, like when kids learn how to ski, or like when you were a kid and learned how to bike ride, you rode with no fear. You know, I mean, kids that go skiing, it's crazy what they do. Once they get to a level of competency, they go nuts.
Yeah, they don't. Because like now, you put a guy like me on a bike nowadays, I've got a fair amount of fear, fair amount of respect. But when I was like 16 or 17, I mean, like, I think about some of the random things I did when I was 16 or 17. I was rubber. I was, you know, elastic. Stuff didn't break. It just bent. It didn't even really bend that far. Nowadays, stuff breaks and it hurts. You know, so.
I still see. I'm always inspired by older people up there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I pity myself and I call myself old and fat and slow, and I am. But then I see somebody else go by that's old and not fat and slow, and I'm like, oh, I'm just fat and slow. Because I mean, there's this lady up there that does laps of this loop where, again, it's a 4-mile climb, and then for me, you know, it's an hour and a half to get back down to the bottom.
Right.
She does loops of that.
Damn.
Like when I get to the bottom, like I'm destroyed. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
I can get to my car and I'm like barely moving. I mean, it's like euphoric. It's awesome. It's the best feeling in the world. But to go do that again, I have gas in the tank to do that. Oh my God. I mean,
I'm not doing this again.
But again, and this lady, I don't know if I mentioned, I mean, she's 65 plus easy. It's just, it blows my mind. So, of course, I've never asked her age, but
right, you just kind of guesstimating.
Yeah, I did. It might have been the same lady. I don't know. I offended a lady up there once who was older because I dared to say, by the way, like she was just sitting there huffing and puffing, and it was at a spot of a trailhead where there's like a really gnarly way in, and a lot of people think that's the only way in, and so I like to go, hey, there's another way in if that's what you're looking for. And so I said that, and man, the look on her face. Oh,
didn't go over well, huh?
I've seen black folks get called the N-bomb,
right,
with less offense. I mean, and there was other people around, and like she was so offended. I mean, and she told me off, and then she left, and there was other people around. And they were just laughing, and I was like,
They were like, "Nah, player, I'm not coming to your defense on this
Well,
one."
they were like, "Good job."
Oh
Okay,
man,
yeah.
wow. So hey, if you're watching this, I want to welcome you guys to the Jamal and Joe show. That is Joe, and I am Jamal. And we are here, obviously, to talk about a whole lot of things. And I've got a couple topics tonight. But I want to remind everybody, if you're watching this and you're this far in, um, we do the show every week. We have a lot of fun. We tell the truth. We give our opinions. And we just recently crossed 100 subscribers, and we'd love for you to jump on board. So if you're watching this now, hit pause, go and subscribe to the channel, and then like the video, and then hit that little bell. That'll turn on the notifications. So whenever we post a new show or a new clip, you will be one of the first people notified, and it's really cool because you can go in and type a comment and be one of the first people to comment. It's awesome. So
You might be one of the people to comment, and that's still okay too, because
yes,
thanks for commenting. So what I really want for you to do, because you're good at this, is explain to me why the Democrats are not the biggest freaking losers for how this entire second impeachment turned out. Ready, set, go. I'm super comfy.
So the vote today on Trump was 57 to 43, meaning that 7 Republicans and all 50 Democrats voted to convict Trump this second time. I mean, the whole thing was going to be dead on arrival regardless, because they needed 17 Republicans to convict Trump in order to get to 67, which is the magic number. And with the case they put on, which I thought was compelling, but then again, I don't like Trump. I thought it was pretty compelling. I thought the timeline they set out, where you saw Mike Pence and his family running down the hallway at 2:24, and then at 2:26, you had Trump tweeting about Mike Pence saying he didn't have the courage to do X, Y, or Z. And when they put that on the screen at the same time, it was pretty powerful. But I mean, you got people like Ted Cruz and you got people like Mitch McConnell that Trump could have been like opening the door of the Capitol, ushering people in, and they still would have never voted to convict. So I think, to me, the way I looked at the whole thing, the second trial was a trial for the public and not for the Senate, to show that this person that they had elected was deranged and is never fit to hold office again. And that if he tries to run for office in 2024, that nobody should vote for him. But I don't think that they were ever going to be able to convict him, because there weren't going to be 17 senators on the Republican side that were going to vote.
So why would they, and correct me where I'm wrong, of course, make a deal with Mitch McConnell to not call witnesses? Because they didn't call any witnesses, correct?
Well, yeah. So
they made, and from my understanding, the deal they made with Mitch McConnell was, and I love how that fucker still controls everything. The deal that they made with him was, we won't call witnesses if you don't block any of our nominations anymore.
Yes.
So let's see how that'll work out.
So the thing here's my thought though. I actually looked at it a little bit differently, because calling witnesses was only going to elongate the process, and I don't think it was going to change anybody's mind. So I looked at it a little bit differently, that they got more out of it than they would have gotten out of it anyway. Because even if they called Pelosi and they called the guy, the Capitol policeman, they're calling a hero, they could have called all these people to come and testify, and I don't think it would have changed Ted Cruz's mind anyway.
No. Okay, well, that's another, how, I mean, people that like, it's crazy. It seems like the people that are like participating in the whole thing, like Cruz and that Howley and I mean, are part of the jury,
right?
And then that same group, or at least there were some of them that went and visited.
Yes, which was completely against the protocol.
Oh well, protocols can go fuck themselves, because they
right.
And speaking of which, let's talk about protocols and them fucking themselves and moving on with life instead. So there seems to be, again, that small window I was referencing before of getting a lot of things done. And there is, I mean, again, I guess is there any belief of trying to work in good faith? I mean, are we really going to fall for that again? Because it feels like we are.
Well, the thing is, with the Senate being 50-50, the way the Senate rules are set up, there's only so much they can get done
All they have
51.
all they have to do is break the filibuster rule, correct? Which they
Well,
can do because
yeah.
they run everything right now. They can
Well,
break that rule. Is that accurate?
see, I don't know the Senate rules well enough on the filibuster rule. I need to do some research on that for next week. But the filibuster rule has been broken 3 times in the last since Reagan. I want to say it's flipped 3 times. Maybe it's not Reagan. Maybe since Bush won, it's flipped 3 times.
Mhm.
It's not the easiest thing to do,
For sure.
but I think they need some help in order to get it done. I think you need 60 votes or something. I'm not sure. I need to look that up. I don't know how easy it would be to do break the filibuster rule with just 51-50.
And that's even a big assumption because that's kind of the problem all along is that the Republicans will 100% vote in line when needed, whereas the Democrats, there's like always one or two holdouts. Was it the Mansion guy?
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, like they're just holding out for more money for they're just pay me more,
Right.
give me more. And that's somehow again, this is I guess our system at work.
So,
And
but then you have people like Mitt Romney who
awesome.
has shown the proclivity that he will vote for the other side, not more often than not, but when necessary. So it is damn near a 50-50 because you got Manchin who will flip, and you've got Susan Collins who will flip, and it's about as close to 50-50. I mean, it's all politics.
Well,
But
and that's the problem is that there's I'm not even I know I'm looked at as like some massive progressive, and I guess okay, fine, I am. I don't care. But boy, you're gonna they. I mean, that was counted on pretty heavily. The progressive vote.
right.
Come
Yeah.
on aboard. We're gonna get some shit done.
Yeah.
And ain't shit gonna get done. See how far that gets you in about a year and a half, right? I mean, this is the I don't know. You're not giving anybody anything right now. Not you. I mean, they
Yeah.
are not giving anybody. I mean, the stimulus checks are laughable. I mean, that's not helping anybody along for anybody. I mean, for any measurable amount of time,
Right. Because the 10 Republicans that said they would vote for the stimulus, they want to cut it in half essentially from what Biden has proposed. They want to cut it in half. They want to take the $1,400 checks back down to $600. They want to fund everything through September. Which I don't understand. I don't understand their point of view. Like, if we have a chance to fund everything for a full year, why would we only fund it through September? I don't understand their point of view. The only thing that they want to do is they want to say Biden wanted to spend 1.9 trillion. We got him to spend half that, so we saved your tax dollars. I don't get that. But back to your point. So the progressive wing of the party, kind of carried Biden along. And I think the only way to get over that is you got to get to Manchin and some of these other people. But the problem is his constituency is pretty conservative in West Virginia,
Sure.
So he's saying what he's saying is I'm voting the will of the people who put me here instead of the people in California or the people in Illinois. This is what the people of West Virginia want. That's how he is able to defend himself.
Well, and the people that want to buy that, then, I mean, I guess are easily sold bullshit. I mean,
right. But I'm just saying.
All I'm saying is that again, and I don't speak for everybody, of course, but I've certainly read a lot of other people's opinions that I seem to share. That we pulled off the most massive, sweeping victories, and we're going to get a big fat dick to show for it. Gonna have a real hard time getting people back on the side next time around, you know. And I mean, it's been talked about ad nauseum of the next guy isn't going to be as ridiculously incompetent as Trump, and freaking watch out because somehow the Republicans can just do everything
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how. It's just magic. And then the Democrats just can't ever seem to get shit done.
Right.
Can't seem to explain it. It's just how it works. Suck it. I don't know. Move to fucking Canada, I guess. Because, I mean, honestly, we're going so far in the wrong direction. I mean, we've gone just 1,000 miles backwards over the last few years as a society. And again, we pulled off the amazing Triple Crown victory, and people are like, okay, cool, do something.
Mm-hmm.
And all we see is more ineptitude. All we see is more just limp dick nothingness with old turtle face scrotum McTurtle frickin' McConnell calling all the shots. I mean, it's amazing. It is stunning. He is now the minority leader, and he's still got everybody by the balls. I mean, that's just
so. Here's the thing.
Cool. It's
here's
cool.
The thing.
I'm frustrated. And I know. Here's the thing. I know I'm not the only one, and I'm just telling you. So many people are going to give up if there is no payoff. If there is nothing coming out of this administration other than this shit of more failure, more we just can't do shit.
Well, here's the thing. It's only been he hasn't even been president a month.
People have no patience.
But I mean,
are you kidding, man? I mean,
here's the thing.
People saw the roughshod that was run over the last 5 years, and we've got all the cards in our pockets now, and all the people are hearing now is excuses of why we can't get shit done. And
so remember this.
I'm just telling you, if I mailed that into my boss, it wouldn't be buying it.
So remember this. So just remember this. Like America, the world is very impatient. So remember when Trump first
we want things done.
But when it comes to politics, things don't happen like that. So
Trump seemed to the last 5 years.
Yeah, but that's all being undone now. So I mean, Obama ruled by executive order, and so did Trump. The only way to get that done so it can't be undone is by taking it through Congress, and Congress is slow. So Biden signed 75 executive orders.
His hands got to be tired.
Right? Undoing all the executive orders that Trump did. So remember this. When Trump came into office, Trump had the House and the Senate. Mm-hmm. Right? And his main thing he wanted to do was overthrow Obamacare. And he had the votes to do it, and he couldn't do it. And they all hated Obamacare because they didn't want poor people to have health insurance. And they couldn't get it done. So Trump just did everything by executive order. So I like to think that I follow this pretty closely. I try to. Biden hasn't been president a month. He recently just got the last senators and the last House representatives sworn in. So he has a full complement of House and Senate. All of his appointments haven't been approved yet. It's a little, I mean, he's like 20 days into his 100 days.
How long till the midterm elections?
2 years.
No, not two. It's not 2 years from now. 2 calendar years. 2 calendar years from right now.
It's 2022. November of
midterms are is in January then?
November of 2022, and then they would be sworn in January of 2023. So 2 years.
Okay, so I'm going on the November date.
Yeah, November of 2022.
Right. So in my, just because the way I look at things in the business world and forecasting calendar, that's a year and a half.
Yeah, year and a half. Yeah, a little bit shorter than 2 years. Yeah.
So, I get it. He hasn't been around for very long. Clock's fucking ticking, yo.
Right. But understand, he hasn't even been president a month.
Don't care.
Do
not care.
But
the clock is ticking so damn fast.
Understandable. I get that.
I mean, because all of this is swirling the drain in a year and a half. It just is.
Right.
If there is not like some serious, if this gets mired down, like McConnell will do, like they're already like 1,000% doing, trying to slow down and corrupt and break any process they can to make anything happen here for Biden to be able to get things done. That's what I'm saying. I understand that's what the actual system is designed to do, but my point is that the system is quite broken. And when the other side bargains in zero faith, All I do is make deals for a living. That's what I do. I make deals.
Mm-hmm.
I can't make a deal with somebody that ain't going to pay their bill.
Right.
How am I going to do that? Similarly, they couldn't make a deal with me if I don't produce the product that they order. So it's just, I mean, and the Republicans love this whole idea of, let's run things like a business. Yes, let's. But they don't run things like they run things like a mob.
Right. Wouldn't disagree with that at all.
Not a business, but that's a problem. Our system has been shown over the last 5 years to be fundamentally broken. And so if the idea is that we're going to patiently fix it, I submit we do not have that time. And we will not get anything done. And we will, in fact, lose handily in a year and a half. And then, you know what? We won't have to sweat it at all. So that's good. Because I guarantee you, the next time around, there will be zero. I mean, you want to see like zero regard paid for the process. I mean, wait and see what happens after the next midterms.
So what do you think? What do you think has to happen in the next year and a half for the midterms to be successful?
I quite the whole idea of going after the second impeachment. I was because we knew that nothing was going to happen.
Right.
You knew it. And this is kind of a side point that the moment that Mike Pence didn't actually use the power that he had
for the 25th Amendment.
I mean, when his own life and his family's life was in danger, let alone the country that he's sworn to protect.
Right.
The little things. Because again, you've defended him, a few times, and I just think he's garbage all the way around. I don't think he's an honorable man. How could you be? You had the chance to actually stop this nonsense, and here we are. So obviously he approved, even though the motherfucker tried to kill him.
Right.
He approved.
Yeah.
So cool. So I don't approve of that. I think that's garbage. But as far as trying to waste any more time with that, I think obviously it is a waste of time. Moving forward with proper, relief for people needing it, for the COVID bills, however they get done. If it's just by fiat, then okay. We managed to give away $2 trillion at the beginning of the COVID, last presidency.
Right.
They scratched a $2 trillion check to some bankers. So if they could do that, then maybe we could scratch a decent check to working Americans.
So they're moving forward with
of course.
They're moving forward with the process of reconciliation. The Republicans can't stop that. So
and what was that? And so what will that give us?
So that would they could pass the COVID bill with a 51-50 vote in the Senate because it's going to pass the House overwhelmingly. So, but that was what the vote-a-rama and all that stuff that we talked about a little bit last week was about. Mm-hmm. That they have to pass each one of these bills individually, each one of those. So then when the time comes, they can pass the COVID relief bill and the Republicans can stall. But because it's all past the committees on the reconciliation, the whole bill will pass 51-50.
Okay, well, that's a start.
But that's one of those things that it just takes time. What that will do is that will go around McConnell being the minority leader, that he can't block it. He can do whatever he wants. He can filibuster, but he can't block it. Right. But each one of those parts of the bill has to go through reconciliation, and that might take a month. That might take 45 days. That might take 60 days. But once they get all those through reconciliation, they can put the bill on the floor, and it'll go to a straight up and down vote, and Kamala Harris will break that vote 51-50. Then the bill goes to Biden's desk, and he signs it. So that's what I was saying. He hasn't been president a month, and in order for these things to get started, the full Congress has to be sworn in. And there was just one, I don't remember what state it was, but there was just one member of the House of Representatives that was just recently sworn in, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, before anything could officially get started. You have to have every seat filled before you can do any of this. But now that all those seats are filled, even though that Republican congressman died of COVID, They're going to replace him because he was sworn in. It's done. So I mean, Biden was sworn in on the 20th, and today's the 13th. So he's 7 days short of a month, and they've got half the bill through reconciliation. I get what you're saying. There's no time to waste, and midterms are within a year. But I mean, just logistically, it might not be right. But the way the system is set up, there was nothing they could have done until everybody was sworn in.
And I know that there was no help given by the previous administration, of course. I mean,
Right.
not just no help. I mean, it was obstruction
For
the whole way.
Yeah, the whole way. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, again, that alone should be impeachable. I mean, you're it's an emergency, and
remember when Trump was running for office and he said I could shoot somebody on the streets of Fifth Avenue.
He was not wrong.
And he was not wrong. So there was legitimately nothing the guy could have done that they would impeach him on. Nothing.
That's why I was saying, like, to do it at all. I get it. You go through the motion, you have it on record. Okay, great. Speed right through that shit. Let them give one last FU of getting a big FU to all of us, I guess.
But look at it the other way though. If they didn't do it, you'd be telling me we're not holding him accountable. So they had to do it.
No, I mean, fine. Go through the motions, get it done. Nothing's going to happen. Speed through, eject, move on. Now get shit done.
Right.
Now there's no more excuses of, oh, we're busy with this or we're busy with that. Nope. Get shit done. And I understand that they had no help like a normal administration would to try to, get anything going ahead of time. And I know that they've been obstructed. Like, what was it? The Attorney General they've been?
Yeah. Yep.
Holding out on? Amazingly. Like the guy that would maybe prosecute the shit out of all of them.
Right. Exactly.
So when does he get confirmed?
Now that they reached this deal, the confirmation should be able to go through in order. Which, when you think about it, Mitch McConnell cut a bad deal, right? He cut a terrible deal, which is good for the Democrats, that he wouldn't block the nominations. Because the thing is, dude, I tell you, they were never going to convict him anyway. So the only
thing to honor this deal.
Well, it's on the record. I mean, he can be held in contempt if he doesn't, because there's 51 votes.
The sergeant at arms will come get him. I read so many internet fantasies about that guy.
Well, I mean, they have 51 votes. So, I mean, the thing is, McConnell is not dumb. He knows the Senate rule. He's been there longer than anybody. He knows the Senate rules that with 51 votes, he can be held in contempt. And he can be stripped of the title of minority leader if he's held in contempt. So he's not going to do that because he's worked 30 years to get where he is, and I don't think he's going to strip it. But he made a bad deal, and I'll tell you why he made a bad deal. By calling witnesses, it was not, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it was not going to change any senator's minds. Would you agree or disagree with that?
No, of course it would.
Right. So the only thing it was going to do was embarrass the Republican Party and embarrass certain senators and certain members of the House. It was going to publicly embarrass.
That's a strong. I mean, embarrass indicates they have shame, and I suggest they don't have any of that. So, no embarrassment coming.
Okay,
it was a waste of time. We can agree with that. To call.
Yeah, but it would have been a waste of time. But now they said they're not going to block the
nominations.
The nominations, which is great because they were going to block the nominations until the midterms. Now so now what you were asking for, stuff to get done, can get started. Once you've got somebody confirmed, you can start to get stuff done.
Well,
Merrick Garland can't prosecute.
Can you celebrate like crazy?
No, I don't think you celebrate. I think you get to work because the attorney general.
I'll celebrate. No, I would celebrate. Seeing, and I do seeing anything.
Because here's the deal: Merrick Garland can't prosecute a single person until he's sworn in, and he can't get sworn in until his nomination goes through. And what happened today is his nomination is going to go through, so like he can legitimately start his job
now. And again, that's just one big part of the spinning wheel. Our government is able to do many things at once, and
yeah, they can walk and shoot.
Prosecuting all of that is one little part of all the things that need to be happening, and like I say, obviously, folks are just anxious to see some results. Seeing a big, shoot down today, I mean, nobody expected anything other than that to happen, of course.
No, there was no way nothing other than that was going to happen. But
Just a little more mud in the eye.
I mean, it needed to happen for closure, right? It needed to happen for closure. But the deal that they got today is going to be big for the next 4 years because constitutionally, and I've looked this up, and you guys can try to hold me honest on this, but I've looked it up. An acting secretary of this, or an acting attorney general of that, or an acting only has so much power. The power they get from that office, whether it's the Secretary of State or the Secretary of Defense, is once they're confirmed by the Senate. That is one reason in the last 2 years Trump had so much trouble getting things done and had to do it by executive order, because most of his cabinet positions were acting because he couldn't get through the Senate.
Right.
By them saying they're not going to block nominations, you will be able to unlock the full power of the United States government. Now, it's not going to move as fast as some people want, but it's going to be moving in the right direction. The right direction from the way I believe, the right direction for the way you believe. You'd like to see it more of a speedboat. And just from studying this stuff for years, I understand it's a big cruise ship and it's hard to turn a cruise ship, but I think we need to get every hand on deck turning that damn wheel the way we need to turn it.
Well, I mean, I've heard positive things like, they already started the Defense Production Act.
Yeah.
Something that should have been done a year ago almost.
Right. Well, you know why? Because the Secretary of Defense was just sworn in. He can work now.
But again, that could have been done previously. I mean,
not by the last administration. They were never going to do that.
It could have been done.
Could have, right.
But that's what I'm saying. And so, I mean, it is nice to see that is progress. That is a positive thing. That is seeing the country working again.
Right.
And yes, I want to see, a big rollout of huge programs and I'm waiting for them to come because I want to see big change. And I don't think I'm alone in that. So
I don't think you're alone in that either. I don't think it's going to come fast enough to satisfy you, but I think it will come.
Yeah, I'm pretty patient.
But there's a lot of people who voted for Biden who are not patient, and they are expecting something now.
Well, I mean, we all want something now. I mean, what I expect and what I want, not necessarily the same thing.
Right. I remember seeing reports that were written in progressive websites that were going after Biden 2 weeks before he was sworn in, saying he wasn't doing enough. And I'm like, dude, the guy hasn't even clocked in for work yet.
That's silly. And I'm reasonable. But I also have witnessed the last, like I said, 4 years be a big shining example of getting stuff done in an unusual manner. And I know that was the ticket that fool rode in on was, I'm not the normal. Okay. You're right.
The problem with that is none of that stuff is sticking. It's all already been undone in less than a month.
No, but the problem with it was how much damage was done. Because yes, I understand, Biden signed a stack and it undid it all. Did it undo it all? No, it did not. Did it really undo 4 years of all of that being in action? Of course it did not. It stopped it here. Okay, neat. But you seem to be discounting all of the harm that happened.
No.
And what I am countering you is that just like that much harm could happen before a stop could be put to it, and it has not been undone. That happened. Those effects are still there. Mm-hmm. Those people that were affected by it are either still dead or in a worse state than they were when it started.
Right.
So it very much had an effect. And I submit that this current administration could learn the lessons of that and have a positive effect of the same magnitude or more so. And maybe they could actually be smart about it to where it couldn't be undone by the time that it's all over. That's what I'm offering. And that you could create something in this short, brief period that has a lasting effect, because the last 4 years got a lasting effect. We're all living inside now.
kind of like
That is a
Obamacare.
direct result of the last 4 years. And what I'm saying is that we could have some similar effects going forward. That while, yes, the next administration might be able to sign some papers undoing some things, but the effects of those things are still going on. Except positive instead of.
So I would submit to you this example. Obamacare.
Yeah.
Trump tried for 4 years to undo Obamacare and he couldn't. And you know why he couldn't?
Because it was done legitimately.
Because it was a law. Because it was a law.
But again, that's ignoring what I'm offering. Is that
no? I hear what you're saying. I understand.
Just because the previous administration didn't do it by the book doesn't mean that they didn't do it. It all got done. And yes, I get a little bit of a stop is kind of put to it right now. Neat. But talk about the barn door flapping in the breeze like a sloppy vagina at a whorehouse.
Right. So I don't know.
It is so far gone. And that is the frustrating part, because now we're going to be playing by the rules, see? We're going to do it all above board, see? We're not going to get much done, of course, but we're going to do it by the book. Cool. And the next folks come along and just burn it all the fuck up. I mean,
I don't know. I get where you're going.
There is a lesson to be learned, I believe, in these last 4 years. And
I mean, the problem I have with that is, do you play dirtier? Do you play dirtier than the guy before you? And then you just keep down this.
Do you recognize that you're in the middle of an alley getting shanked by a fucking motherfucker, or do you think, gosh, maybe I'm actually in Disneyland? Realize where the fuck we are, man.
No, I get that.
The other side is not playing by the rules.
I get that.
And here's the thing: what game will you ever win if the other side is not playing by the rules? Please give me an example.
We won Obamacare. Okay, I can give you 4 or 5 laws that Obama got through that Trump tried his damnness to overturn, and he couldn't.
Fine and swell, and that's all swell and good. But tell me one game that you can win if your opponent does not play by the rules.
I'll give you another one: gay marriage. If we're on that level.
No, I mean, there is no example of that. The point that I'm making is that the other side is not playing by the rules anymore. They're just not. And I mean, and I guess we'll have another shining example here in a moment when if McConnell lives up to his word and suddenly they're playing by the rules. Awesome. I'll stand corrected. And if he doesn't, then I'll go, we're still getting suckered over and over and over again. Are we tired of it yet? Probably not, and we'll hear about how we need to play by some more rules.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I understand. I get what you're saying.
I like what you're saying too. Play by the rules, cool.
Well, no, I'm not saying play by the rules. I'm saying if you do certain things a certain way, they can't be undone by people who are not playing by the rules.
I understand that, but
Trump tried his hardest to overturn gay marriage, and he tried his hardest to overturn Obamacare. And there's a few other things in there that he tried to pull every dirty trick he could, executive order this, executive order that, but he was not able to do it. So on principled things, I think you take the hard way, because that way is damn near impossible to overturn.
It may not get you many re-elections.
Okay.
And then you're out of office.
I get it. But remember the Equal Rights Protection Act, right? Mm-hmm. You know, the getting the law turned over that said that Black folks were 5/8 of a person. All of these things could have been done the easy way by jamming it through and then undone. But they were done the right way, and they can't be undone.
But I mean, it sure seemed like there was a wee more bargaining back in those days than there is now. There is no bargaining. What bargaining is there now?
No.
There's one side and there's the other. And then when you have the big stick, you smack with it, and then you lose your stick, and you don't get to smack with it.
Look how long it took Obamacare to go through, right? There's real people who are getting benefited from that. He was going to put that through as an executive order, and Trump would have undone that on day one. Trump tried to undo that, and he tried to undo gay marriage on day one. Tried to do both of those things, and he found out he couldn't. right? Those are two of the long-lasting parts of Obama's legacy that will be almost impossible for them to overturn. And there's literally millions of people who are being positively affected.
So we're saying we're pretty much going to be limiting to like one or two things to maybe get done. Honestly, I mean, reasonable expectations. You get one or two things done.
Not necessarily, because if you look at what is on the plate for the Biden administration, they've got like 5 things they're trying to do this year.
And again, all that with the idea that the other side is going to be bargaining along in good faith.
Not if they go through reconciliation, they'll be able to pass everything they want on 51 to 50.
But that takes so much time that's going to eat up the schedule for anything else.
But the thing about that is it will be the law of the United States of America that cannot be undone by executive.
But my point is absolutely accurate. That it eats up a bunch of time. You can't get anything else done. And like I said,
not necessarily, because
like I said, you get one or two things if you go through these appropriate channels.
Well, I don't know.
Assuming you don't get stonewalled or blocked in some fashion, filibuster.
The way in which they have it up with reconciliation, they will be able to get done everything they want to get done.
Well, here's to hoping.
There's 2 senators. There's 2 Democratic senators who could throw a wrench in the whole thing.
Yeah. And so I don't know what to say about that.
I don't know what
how is it, get some freaking pictures of that guy, banging a prostitute then, and say, dude, you need to get on the bus.
I mean, if all 50 Democratic senators do what they're supposed to do, everything will pass that Biden wants to pass.
Cool. Here's to hoping.
It won't be quick, but he will be able to get his entire agenda through. He will be able to get all of the nominations through. He will be able to fill the lower court judges that he wants to get done. He's already asked all the attorney generals appointed by Trump to resign. And if you read the list of names that he wants to appoint, there's some pretty promising people. So every single Trump appointed attorney general will be out of their job by the end of the month. And, those new appointments are not going to get blocked through Congress. So the policies that he wants to put down will be able to filter down through all the states.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it's not going to be quick. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be, he signs an executive order and all of a sudden we start digging and we start building tracks and we start putting in pipelines. It's going to be a slower process, but it won't be able to be undone in 4 or 8 years. Like look at Trump. Look at the border wall. Just look at the border wall for a second.
Look at his Supreme Court justices.
Yeah, but
he did all those federal judges.
But he did those the right way. He did those the right way.
Yeah, because he had all the power to do it.
Right. And with 51 votes, Biden can do the same. That's my point. Biden can do the same. If there was to be a Supreme Court justice opening tomorrow, he could have somebody appointed in 6 weeks.
But again, all the temporary things that were done over the last 4 years. I mean, the effects of that. I mean,
no, you're right. The effects of that. I mean, it happened. We can't say it didn't happen. We can't say it didn't happen.
And could we do the same thing on warp speed for, say, relief for all the folks? I mean, I don't even qualify. I'm not even in that picture. I'm just saying there's a lot of folks that are suffering like crazy. Screw this waiting around shit. Cut checks right now. Make it fucking happen. I don't give a shit. Make that shit happen.
The thing is though.
I get it, and I know, but that's a thing that you can do. That can't be undone. That can't be undone.
Right.
That cannot be undone.
Right.
And you know what you do? You make a lot of folks happy.
Mm-hmm.
They're happy, and you might even buy some votes that you otherwise didn't have, and you get folks on your side.
Right.
And lo and behold, we have memories of a fucking goldfish, and no one will even remember it other than the people that were benefited by it. And if anybody ever brought it up again, they go, "Yeah, I remember. I got a check." You got a problem with that?
So the word on the street is before the end of March, the checks could be rolling out.
Like I said, I'm not in that camp. If I was, that sounds like a long fucking time away.
Well, I mean, it was 9 months before the first $600 checks came out.
So what?
That was a lot longer, you know.
Because that was a piece of garbage and a low bar.
Right.
Come on, man. We're supposed to be way up here. Lowered expectations? Nah. We got high expectations now.
Right.
We want shit to happen. And that's my point. Is that, you know, we can do stuff, and yes, I get it. There's the right way. And then there's the way to just make shit happen. And as much as I can't stand that last guy, little tip of that hat. Little tip of that hat. We made some shit happen. I didn't benefit from any of it, but a lot of folks did. And the folks that did, that they tipped their hat because their wallet is fatter, their taxes are lower. They've got it better. Yeah, okay, fine. Sign those executive orders, undo it all. You didn't undo shit. They're still doing great. You ain't hurting them. You ain't helping anybody else. Not that immediately. And you can. And that's what people see. Especially us ignorant folks that don't know all the ins and the outs and whatnot. All we know is that we won all three and that things are supposed to be better now. Now. And again, I can pay my rent, thank God. I can pay my bills, thank God. But I'm one of the few, it seems. And there's a lot of folks that cannot. And you tell me more than a month away, we might get a check?
But the thing is, like, I
mean, that is not buying any votes, my friend.
I hear what you're saying. He hasn't been president a month.
I'm telling you, that excuse rings hollow to people that fucking need it.
Then the people, they're going to have to pump their brakes because the full House of Representatives and Senate was not even sworn in. I mean, if people really want to be that man, then they need to do their homework and understand how it works. I mean, we have to have some personal responsibility. I hear what you're saying, but
the personal responsibility is out the window, man. I mean, these people had what personal responsibility did any of these folks get to be in the position that they're in that was completely put on them by this whole pandemic? They didn't do any of that. That was none of their responsibility.
Absolutely.
All they know
I will
completely let down.
I will go back. I will go back.
The guy that was begging for their vote, the guy that was begging, and the lady that was begging for their vote, saying, we're going to make it all fucking better for you. Just need a little more time. When all that they saw the last 4 years was the guy that was just like, nah, fuck it, you don't need more time. I just get shit done for the people that I want to get shit done for.
But the thing is, that was illegal. And we all know it was illegal.
And the consequences of that exactly are what?
He got impeached twice.
And the consequences exactly of that are what?
History's not going to reflect very well on him. I mean,
how much does that weigh on him exactly? Probably
well, he's
zero to what? None.
Yeah, but here's the deal. If I'm Biden, I'm not doing it illegally. I'm just saying, I guess I'm more of a pragmatic person.
Maybe it's not even illegal. Maybe we've just established new legalities.
No, it's illegal. It's 100%.
We've established new gentlemen's agreements that our entire country is not about legal. It's about gentlemen's agreements, apparently.
I mean,
we enforce a gentleman's agreement.
Even Republican scholars will tell you what Trump was doing was not legal. You know, they've come out.
And yet here we are, and it all happened. And we all got to sit there and go, wow, storming the Capitol isn't legal either, but inciting people to insurrection isn't legal, but.
Right. I don't know. I'm just saying.
All of
in my heart of hearts, I don't believe Biden is going to go the illegal route, and I stand behind that.
I agree that he probably won't. And what I stand behind is that people are a little frustrated going, gosh, it doesn't seem like you're really going to go to bat then, because we saw another guy do all sorts of crazy shit for the people that he wanted to do shit for. Why won't you do that for us? Oh,
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. I can't get behind that. I couldn't get behind it when Trump was doing it, and I can't get behind it if I got to stand on my principles.
We've seen that law. I mean, you know, I used to put a lot of stock in law and what that meant until I see how unequally it's applied.
No, the law's been unequally applied for 400 years, but
I was just naive about it. That's all. And when I got a bit more realization of it, it made me skeptical of lots of other things.
Right. I don't know. I stand behind Biden, and maybe it's because I was a political science major. I don't know. Maybe because I have a really good idea of how this system works,
But that's what's so
maybe
great.
how the system
all of the
doesn't work.
experts that had that's what's so great is that all of you folks that have all those degrees of how this shit's supposed to work, and that just got completely shit on for 4 years of what was supposed to happen. And yes, now we're back on course, and now we're going to be, great. How it's supposed to work was meaningless. It was meaningless. It got raped in the back alley and left for dead. It was all gentlemen's agreements, we were told. And gosh, we just didn't really have that written down in law quite the way we were supposed to. And turns out people just don't really have to abide. Funny that. But now all of a sudden we're going to have to abide. And I fucking called that shit so long ago. I called that shit so long ago that the moment that he was out of office and the new, and whether it was Biden or whomever, because this was before we knew who it was going to be, I was like, if there's a Democrat in office, suddenly the laws will matter again. Suddenly everything needs to be done by the book. Suddenly it's rules and procedure. When the last 4 years, that's just been on fire. And again, all people see are the results of that. And yes, I get it. Some of those are being undone. Some of them aren't. And those results are long lasting. And so people want to see results because they were rallied to this. And they want to see results now. And yes, it's been a short amount of time, but time's relative. And if you've been suffering through this pandemic, not like I have, but like others have, I mean, telling folks, you might get a check in 6 weeks, maybe. We're hoping, we're working on it. Those people are more patient than I am.
Right. So, I mean, if they want to cut checks now, they would have to have the Republicans to not filibuster the bill because it's 50-50. The way they're going to get it through is through reconciliation, and then they can do it 51-50. Now, if they had a handful of Republican senators who would jump on board, they could get it done tomorrow. This could all be done tomorrow. But if they want to so here's the thing. The Biden administration has a $1.9 trillion package that I haven't read at all. Actually, my wife has read probably 75% of it because it's online. It's pretty comprehensive, and it covers a lot of things. Does it cover everything? No. Is there some things that I would personally change? Yes. But is it 80 to 90% there? Yes. Could this go to a vote and pass tomorrow? Absolutely. It can't pass with just 51 votes because of the financials in there. It has to have a bigger percentage of the vote, or each little part of the bill has to go through the reconciliation process. And it goes into committee, and it goes to the floor, and they call it vote-a-rama, and they've got to go yay or nay, and they've got to count the votes on each one. So checks could be cut by next Friday if the bill was able to be passed right now, right? Now that everybody's sworn in, it could go through both houses of Congress. He could sign it, and checks can go out by next week. Take about 10 days for the checks to get out. However, the Republicans want to cut the bill in half. They say it's too much money. So they are not allowing it to go through it's in its entirety. So reconciliation has only been used 3 times since Clinton. Clinton's people used it once, George Bush people used it once, and now it's being used now. There might have been one other one in there. I'd have to go back and look. It's a very unused procedural entity within the Senate of the United States. It's brilliant when they used it, but it's unused. So if people are hurting and they want checks cut now, they need to talk to those Republican senators who have the roadblock up. The Biden plan could get done on Monday. They could put it up for a vote, and it would.
Or they could get rid of the filibuster, right? I mean, I know we talked about.
Yeah, I'm not as educated.
From my understanding, they can. I know I'm not an expert, but they have the ability to. It's within their powers to, right? They control all 3 parts to make that happen.
The filibuster is only with the Senate. So it has nothing to do with the House or the presidency. The filibuster is solely in the Senate. There's different rules in the other chambers. They
can, in fact, then it seems like emergency time, break glass, do stuff.
But remember, every action has an equal reaction.
Oh, I know. We're supposed to be terrified about what might come and repercussions and reciprocity. Cool. But torpedoes, full speed ahead, yo.
So the thing is, with reconciliation, they can get exactly what they want without having to use the nuclear option of the filibuster and save that for another time.
Not quite, except you're wasting a lot of time with your reconciliation that's so seldom used. It's wasting a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean that is something that Schumer has to make the decision whether or not he wants to go nuclear 30 days into a presidency. He's choosing not to.
It's emergency time.
I don't know. I mean, I don't disagree with that, but like I said, I'm not as educated on the filibuster, but just being a student of the American government, if this was a chess game, this is not the time to make a big move. Because you have a long 4 years that you have to kind of navigate through. That's just the way I see it. And then again, I'm not the guy that's making the move that somebody's going to lose their house tomorrow or someone's business is going to close tomorrow. I'm just saying pragmatically, and that's the way I tend to look at politics, is pragmatically. I try to stay as close to the center as possible and look at both sides and look at the long game. I don't know. I don't think you want to go nuclear option 30 days into a presidency.
I'm a huge long game looker. But I'm also, realizing, that sometimes drastic measures are taken, and you need to.
Get it? I don't think you need to do that 30 days in. I
don't care if it's the next fucking day. Sometimes you got to. Sometimes the situation requires big boy decisions. And
I think you're right. I think they're making a big boy decision because if you go nuclear 30 days in, what's the next 4 years going to look like? Every single bill is going to be nuclear. I don't know that that's the smartest thing to do. But then again, I've never been elected senator of any state I've lived in. I just personally don't think that's the smartest thing to do 30 days in.
I'm more in the camp of desperate times call for desperate measures. And we are in the most desperate times I've ever imagined our country could look at, short of being like invaded, like Red Dawn taught me a long time ago.
Right. Because I mean, we had a chance. At the beginning, like a year ago today.
So let me just ask you. So if we could get rid of the filibuster, and you've already kind of made the position clear, you would say no to this idea. That if we could get rid of the filibuster by Tuesday morning and be off and running with everything we need to do, you would not be on board with that.
I say no because trying to get rid of the filibuster could potentially cause harm on other things that they're trying to do.
And that's fine. I just take if that was in the cards, if that was something that could be done,
if there were no repercussions.
I was the guy behind the desk and I was asking all my folks, hey, you smart people that are supposed to be here to know what the fuck you're doing. We can get rid of this shit by Tuesday morning, Monday afternoon if it's better.
If there were no repercussions that came with that,
no. Lay out all the repercussions, and then Daddy's going to make a decision, and let's get some shit done. That's what Daddy's decision would be.
Right. I don't think they're going to do that.
I know they're not going to do it. I know, and that's why I'm disappointed.
Right. I don't think they're going to do that. I think Schumer is. See, here's the thing. The Senate has some of the most weird rules of any body of government in the world. Forget the country. The United States Senate has some very different rules. You can call them general agreement. You can call them whatever you want. They are diametrically opposed to the rules that are in the House of Representatives. The House of Representative rules are much more easier for the layperson to understand. And I don't know why that is. I do know why it is, because the early founders set up the Senate. They wanted to make it as confusing as possible so people wouldn't understand what they were doing. Mm-hmm. But now with C-SPAN, we can see exactly what they were doing. And if you study the Senate, you understand those rules were put in there for a very specific reason. The House of Representatives, on the other hand, is much more of a straight up and down black and white line, where the Senate is various rules of gray, and you need 67 votes for this, and you need 51 for this, and you need a supermajority here. I say all that to say that your frustration, I feel it. And I feel it, but I'm looking at it through the lens of all the papers I've written about the Senate and all the times I've studied the Senate, and how it should make sense, but it doesn't. And that's not to say it's right, but to say what you want to do technically could be done, but it would break a whole lot of other stuff and pretty much bring things to a halt. You'd get one thing through, but then nothing else would get done. And it would just literally grind everything through to a halt. So, like, while I understand your frustration,
that's a forecast, though. I mean, you don't know. You don't know it would grind everything to a halt. I mean, 100%. 100%. It would grind things to a halt.
I'll give you an example. 1992 or 93, technically, with Clinton. The last time that, well, I don't know if it was the last time. The time that I remember, well, because in 92 I was in college, when the filibuster was taken away, government went into lockdown, right?
Then what happened?
It came back.
Oh my God.
The filibuster came back. But the thing that they were trying to push through never went through.
They tried.
It never went through.
But they tried. And you know what? And that's what I'm saying. They tried. And, if all this pans out, all of the planning, the meticulousness, and the actual following the rules of law, like we've always done up till recently, and things are getting better, then great, groovy. I'm just saying there's a lot of time that's being wasted. There's a lot of folks that are massively hurting. If there's no way to institute emergency-ness in this country, more so than the grindingly slow as fuck wheels of the Senate, I find that hard to believe. I find that impossible to believe, especially based on, again, the last 4 years when it was, we're just doing shit. And yeah, stuff might happen later on. Some reciprocity may occur. They may sign letters that undo things down the road. Didn't matter. They did all that. And yeah, I mean, for example, like opening up whatever Alaskan wildlife refuge for drilling. And I don't think anybody took them up on it because they knew that would not probably hold up come the next administration. So who's going to really set up shop? Because it's kind of expensive to set up oil drilling, I imagine, when you don't think it's really going to be long lasting, And there's many examples like that, I think, of things that were just undone just for undoing's sake. And that's just pure spite at that point.
How would you equate that to the border wall?
That's grift, baby. That's money. That's just when, what was it? 2 dudes in like Whitefish, Montana or some shit are responsible for it was like a ridiculous amount of money. And they're like some construction firm or whatever the shit. It's just 2 dudes. It's like me and you having a P.O. box in Whitefish, Montana.
Yeah.
Send our checks there, please. And we'll have some mock-ups of some walls that fall over. I mean, come on. That was like everything, like so much of what they did. It was grift. It was just making money for their buddies or themselves off the government. And that was done. That was done at every opportunity. I mean, they milked this country dry over the last 4 years. And again, that stuff that fine, they signed an order afterwards to say, no, we shouldn't do that. Okay, cool. Do we get that money back? Mm-mm. So, I understand, and I've always been a big fan of the process and the system. But I have witnessed, along with everybody else, our system take right rogering in the ear for what we're supposed to see as the process. And so if it was good enough for them, it's good enough for us.
I don't know. I disagree with that. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but we've talked about many times before about how we are big fans of regulation. and about how things should happen, but things should be regulated. And I think when you talk about those regulations, I think those regulations should be law and should not be executive order, meaning that at any time, if someone comes into office who doesn't agree with that, then those regulations would go away. I don't like that. I think if you're going to have a regulation, it should be ironclad law. And I think you should take your time to put that regulation through the right process to make sure it can't be undone.
Well, and that's all swell when we're talking about regulations.
Right? So
that's all swell about regulations. But again, we're talking about emergency time. We're talking about our country is in emergency time right now.
Right. So when it comes to emergency funds directly to American people, the president of the United States does not control the treasury and cannot issue direct money to the American public. Donald Trump couldn't do it. Biden can't do it. The House of Representatives controls the finances of the country.
And who's in charge of the House of Representatives? Who has the majority there?
The Democrats, and they've passed the budget to get direct payments to the.
And I'd like to offer right there. They didn't even go far enough with what they're trying to offer. Was it $2,000?
Yeah, $2,000.
Really? I mean, as a one-time payment.
Yeah.
That's what they feel is going to save the American people. Where the fuck do those people live? Not everybody lives in Nebraska, you know. I mean, $2,000 in Portland. What the shit? That gets you about 10 days.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So the thing is like, I understand what you're saying.
It's just another example of.
Right. But the thing is, like, Biden couldn't come out and sign an executive order and you get a check.
Fine. Or I get a check. Okay, skip the executive order. How about you just go to the bat and go, no, not $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, something legitimate, something that happens every month, not a one-time payment. You're going to get $2,000 this month, next month, and the month after that, the month after that. I mean, again, they have no cojones. I mean, do something. $2,000 is a one-time payment, and you think that's adequate?
I mean, Canada's doing $2,000 a month.
Gosh, what is every other first world country doing?
I'd have to look.
I have, and we ain't doing anything like what they're doing. I mean, every other Germany, I mean, even UK, I mean, they're paying their own people to stay the hell home. They're paying their businesses to stay shut down. They're paying people.
Mm-hmm.
We can't figure that out. All that we've come up with.
Well, you have to remember
$1,000, and this is what we're supposed to be so proud of. This is the antithesis to the previous administration. This is us winning. Can you imagine if before all the elections you go, man, if we win presidency, Senate, and House, can you imagine what might get done? Turns out not a lot, not yet. Kind of slow.
Well, you have to remember the previous administration didn't think we needed to stay home at all.
I know, and we're supposed to be better than that. And so,
and because of that, we've got hundreds of thousands of people that are sick and dead because they didn't believe we needed to shut down. Like I was going to say a few minutes ago, today is February the 13th, 2021. Imagine if 1 year ago today, we had decided to shut everything down and to stay home for 2 months. I don't believe we would be in this predicament that we're in now. The previous administration didn't want to acknowledge that the disease was real. They wanted to blame it on China. So there was no way they were going to pay people to stay home and shut down their business when they didn't believe we needed to stay home at all. So the starting point from where we are and where we were is so far from the ending point. You have to remember, we talked about this on one of our first shows. Every other country, well, not every other country, most of Europe said we are not taking people in from the United States because the United States refuses to go on a lockdown.
Yeah,
you couldn't get a flight out. So my point is, it's not a light switch, right?
It kind of is. It kind of is. It kind of bullshit because it kind of is. When you win the presidency and Senate and House, That's a big fucking light switch.
It doesn't work that way.
And when you're coming from the previous administration that did such a shit job, and then you come in to save the day with $2,000.
Here's the deal. Listen. No, I get you. Listen.
Not even come in with like $2,000 a month, or I mean, way to blow people away. Way to really step up.
Listen, here's the deal. You have to understand, and you don't have to like it, but you have to understand how the government works.
Even from a negotiating standpoint, how about you start off big, knowing you're going to get whittled down? Right. No shit, they're going to whittle you down, but you come in a big $2,000, knowing you're going to get whittled down to $700, and you expect that these people are going to vote for these people again? You're
too in the weeds. Like I get where you're coming from, but remember when Trump came in, he had the same thought that you're talking about now. I'm going to flip a light switch. I've got the presidency, I've got the House, and I've got the Senate. What did he get done in his first 2 years? Nothing. What did he do his last 2 years? He governed by executive order. Just like you were saying.
But my point is that the Democrats are so goddamn spineless. They can't even come into a bargain strong. You can't even come into a bargain strong.
Well,
if they have any decent negotiating skills whatsoever, or if they gave two shits about the people they claim to give two shits about. See, the thing is, the Republicans, they barf all that shit. Nobody believes them. They just want to wave a flag. The Democrats go, oh, no, we really care about you. We care about you so much. $2,000. I mean, to not even come in with a freaking, I've never been to Mexico. You're a fan. When you go bargaining in Mexico, how does that go? You just pay the first price that guy says?
Well, here's the deal. Here's the thing.
Oh, wait, come on. Come on.
I mean, you got to remember, how are you going to pay for this? How are you going to pay for $2,000 a month?
Don't even get me started. Really? We're going to have this conversation again?
I'm just saying, how you would pay for it and how the people in Washington, D.C. would pay for it. They're not willing to make the sacrifices to the military industrial complex that you are. So,
well, and hence my problem with this system is it almost seems like they may not have our best interest in mind.
I'm not saying they do, but what I'm saying is you are giving the person who's the president you're giving him way too much credit. You're giving Trump way too much credit. You're giving Biden way too much credit. He doesn't have the power to flip the switch. There is no switch, is what I'm trying to tell you. There isn't. There's no switch to be. I mean, Trump tried his best.
What is the point of elections? What is the point of having presidency, winning the Senate, winning the That's not a switch. If that ain't a switch, what that shit is?
It's not a switch.
It sure was. It sure felt like a switch 4 years ago, didn't it?
Because he did everything illegally.
And did it still feel? If I punch you in the face, do you feel it? Whether it's a boxing match that's sanctioned by the Boxing Association, or whether we're just standing outside and I get pissed and I punch you in the face?
Right. I'm not
disagreeing. You feel a punch in the face.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
They get results. We piss and moan about processes. Do you see the fundamental difference?
I see.
And our country does, and people do, and people see how one side gets some shit done. Come hell or high water, they get shit done, and I hope we do too. By the time it's all over, and the folks that couldn't make it till the time that it could actually get done properly will understand that they just tough shit.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying what you want. I'm just saying what you want.
That system,
right? What you want. Joe Biden does not have the authority to do.
Between Joe Biden, the Senate, and the House, no power. There's none to get anything done straight off the bat.
It's getting done. I mean, but here's the thing. Here's you have to look.
And again, we're talking like in all of the amazing powers of our government that entail things like the Defense Production Act.
Right. Here's the deal. How long did it take to get a basic right of health care passed for every American. How long did that take? It took 6.5 years.
Were we in a pandemic then?
For some people, yes. People who had dude, I know people who died because they couldn't get doctor's appointments.
That is not could they pass that on to everybody else in the room with them and then they all died too? That's not a pandemic.
No.
That's not a pandemic.
Gotcha. No. Point taken. But here's the thing.
No.
What you want to do, the guy in the White House doesn't have the power to do it.
Bullshit. If there are no such things as emergency, wartime powers, we don't have anything in the book that accounts for an emergency. Some shit's got to get done. We don't have anything. We got nothing. So tell all those folks that are cold as fuck and starving and broke and out of a job, it's just a process, yo.
I mean,
we got nothing for them. We got nothing.
I can't disagree.
The greatest country on earth, and we got nothing for those folks.
I mean, have we had anything for those folks for 200 years? This is not the first time. And this probably won't be the last time.
So we just got nothing. We got zip.
We have like you said, we have a process. When it comes to emergency things, the only emergency powers the government exercises is war powers. That is it. Go back to 1812, right? Let's go back to 1812. The War of 1812 was, I think, the second time that the War Powers, or maybe it might have been the first time that the War Powers Act was used.
And what's required for the War Powers Act then?
I'd have to look that up. There's certain benchmarks that have to be met in order to trigger the War Powers Act. And Congress has sued just about every president who's tried to use it since then. I'd have to look that up. I don't know that off the top of my head. But there are certain benchmarks that have to be used for the president to circumvent Congress and institute the War Powers Act.
Would one of those maybe be being attacked by a foreign enemy?
George Bush tried to use it with 9/11, and Congress said it didn't fit because it wasn't an official sovereign government that attacked us.
So Russia committed a cyber attack on us about 2 months ago. That
doesn't fit the War Powers. That doesn't fit the War Powers Act because it's not a physical. They probably need to update it to include cyber crimes. But if 9/11 didn't fit it, then something's going to have to pass a high bar to fit it.
But you just said 9/11 didn't fit it because those were not state actors. Okay, fine.
It has to be a physical act upon the sovereign United. There's like 5 things, 5 criteria. It might be 6, but there's at least 5 criteria it has to meet. And I can tell you right off, just from what I remember from school, a cyber attack is not going to hit all 5 of the things that it needs to meet.
Was there even such a thing as a cyber attack when you were in school?
No.
Okay, then that maybe didn't quite fit the list then. So they might have updated it since then.
They haven't. The War Powers Act has not been updated since the Patriot Act. That's the last time they updated it, was the Patriot Act.
Was the Patriot Act after you went to school?
Was I in school?
It was.
Yeah. Because I was like 90.
It's possible that actually it has been updated and cybersecurity is a part of it.
I no, because the internet wasn't officially around then.
In 2001?
I'll look it up, but I can almost guarantee you, I'd almost bet a paycheck that the updated War Powers Act and the Patriot Act does not include cyber attacks. I'd look it up, but I'm pretty sure. Because if it had, they triggered it, right? So in order to trigger that, there's like very specific criteria that has to go into place in order to trigger it. And they did that on purpose, so you don't have nuclear war happening every time something happens.
Sure. So say after the Great Depression, all the things that happened then, those were all more like bipartisan agreements when Congress and Senate used to work together, making things happen, which we don't have anymore. And again, that's my whole problem, is that we don't have any bargaining in good faith. And as a professional deal maker, recognizing that the deal making system is broken, to then naively or ignorantly continue to try to make deals, I'm not sure what that says. It says, to me, it either says that's either just people expecting no other outcome and just, going through the motions.
Hold the phone real quick. I've got to go do something. Filibuster for a second.
Nice.
2 seconds.
Nice. I hate the filibuster, unless it works for me, I guess. I got nothing. Just like our government. Nah, I hope that we get something going on. I just want it to be faster. And like I say, I'm not even one of the folks that's in a pinch. I just feel for those folks that are, and telling them, just a few more weeks. Okay. And maybe I'll look back on this in a few weeks and go, gosh, I was so impatient. Here we are in Shangri-La with the government making it rain. People just cashing checks and snapping necks. Oh, what a world it'll be. So do you got like buy and sell and shit like that going on? What's up?
So I wanted to do, and my buy or sell this week is, so you've heard about the lady that gorilla glued her wig to her head. Yeah. My buy or sell is, should people who misuse products be able to sue and get relief from the company of said product?
I mean, isn't there like all sorts of disclaimer? I mean, that's why there's disclaimers on everything.
There are disclaimers on everything. However,
there's not a disclaimer on Gorilla Glue that says don't put it in your hair.
I don't think there is, but I mean, there's disclaimers and there's signs everywhere, and people still sue. Well, it doesn't mean you're going to win, but they still sue.
You can go for it, you know.
So buy or sell. So this lady, and I'm trying to find it here, but she started a GoFundMe. She started a GoFundMe, and it got up to over $20,000.
Yeah, I'm not trying to promote her dumbass. So
what's that?
I'm not trying to promote her like and rubes, but you know.
So yeah, I mean, should she be able to profit off of her stupidity?
Hey, I mean, if people want to give people money, I mean.
And now there's
I mean, you know, if people can give great prophets like Joel Osteen money.
Yeah, true.
And mega church.
And now there's a salon owner who's come out and says he's used Gorilla Glue for years.
Nice.
You know, the safe way to use Gorilla Glue as a hair product, salon owner admits he's been using the adhesive on client for years, but only to secure extensions and never to their actual hair or scalp. So there's people coming out saying now that, yeah, it's kind of an industry thing that people use Gorilla Glue.
But they're not using it in the same way that she was, because she was using it like she like mistook it for like a conditioner or something. Is that her claim? Is it she?
That was her original claim.
Like, I really wanted the grip and hold of Gorilla Glue.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then she has no claim at all because she knew what the hell it was.
Exactly. But that's
I was thinking like maybe she I was thinking that it was like a different looking product from Gorilla Glue, maybe like a new product that is like, you know, a different color or a different type of packaging.
No.
And people would somehow mistake it for hair conditioner.
No, she knew that she really wanted it to hold into place, and so she put Gorilla Glue.
Which it did.
Yeah, it did. But now she's somewhat of a celebrity.
No, and again, that's just making stupid people famous, which
is
a problem with the internet. But
so I don't even think it's the internet, because I mean, people were suing McDonald's for selling them hot coffee 20 years ago, saying that, I didn't realize it was hot. You know, I mean,
sure. And there was attempts to make those people famous by the news, but the internet is just better at making people famous, and that's why I hate the internet.
So I don't know. My buy or sell is, should people be able to profit off of things such as this? There's countless things. So there is a student in West Virginia who was sledding down a hill and sledded into a police car and injured himself, and is trying to sue the police department of his college town because he was injured while sledding into their police car.
Good luck.
You know,
I mean, you can sue anybody for anything.
And
Go for it.
And I question whether or not people who are at fault to begin with should be able to
Even be able to sue?
well, I don't know. Should they be able to make any money at all off their stupidity? I mean, they passed a law, a federal law, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that serial killers couldn't write books and profit off of their killings. Because before that, serial killers could write books and profit off of their killings.
Does OJ count as a serial killer?
He was never convicted of murder.
He's just he's like, I'm just like, what qualifies as like a mass murderer?
If you were convicted of a homicide, you cannot write a book and profit off of said homicide.
But the Juice has done that like crazy, hasn't he?
But he was never convicted of homicide.
He was civilly.
Right. That's not a
civil case, right?
That's not a criminal. That's not a criminal.
I get you. The juice is loose,
because Charles Manson and Keith Jesperson and John Wayne Casey, before he died, all had books, and they were trying to get book deals, and the victims sued, and a law was passed that a person who is convicted of a homicide cannot profit off of said homicide. They could write a book about another homicide and try to profit off of it, but then as soon as they publish the book, they would be immediately charged for that homicide. So,
a fun little tidbit about Charlie Manson, and his connections, communications, and involvement with like the CIA.
Oh yeah, it goes deep, man.
And how wild that was. Where, again, this is all just like, public record now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. His connections to the CIA go deep, and his connections to the LSD mafia and all this other stuff, man. It's just crazy.
For sure. And how like he would dose all those people, but he would like pretend to take it. And then he would stay straight.
Yep.
And get him to, all fired up and whatever. And it was like some clinic in Frisco that was a front for the CIA.
Right.
And their doctors.
I can't remember the name of the operation, but it was all around the people that were doing the LSD that were sending it over to Vietnam and testing on the soldiers. And God, I want to say Project Blue Book, but I know that's something else. But it was something that Project Blue Book was a UFO thing, but it's something along those lines that
it had some silly name, but it's just, again, this is all the stuff we admit to.
Right. Yes.
That's what blows me away. When this is the stuff that we're like, yeah,
we did it.
We did that.
And it just makes you think, we should do a show about conspiracy theories one time. Because there are so many like really good, legit conspiracy theories that aren't like little green men climbed in my window, but like legitimate things that like happened.
The problem, here's my only problem with that is that I like the X-Files. I like lots of shit. And some things are fun to believe in or just goof around with.
Right.
I'm curious about what happened to JFK. I think that it's suspect at best, the official explanation. However, the conspiracy theory community has gone from some quirky, laughable folks to now storming the capital of our nation.
True.
And
I get you.
And coming so close to assassinating our entire
government
and installing a fucking king.
Right.
Because of that.
But that's what I think we should talk about is the underlying nature of a conspiracy theory and how it can take on a life of its own. Because we can look at the CIA and how they were trying to manipulate the public with LSD. And the whole reason they were trying to do it was to find a way to pacify the populace so someone could do something, right? Now, that is legitimate. That's not like putting on my QAnon hat. Like, I can go to the library and I can get actual quotes and governmental documents that will show that actually happened. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. This other stuff, like this, like what's supposed to happen on March 4th and like the 19th inauguration of the president, all this wild and wacky stuff, like I don't want to give additional credence to that. Like, I look into that on the side and I see it on Facebook and people are like, oh, March 4th, this is going to be fire and brimstone. I'm talking about like legitimate things that like history has proven out, and talk about those, not like wild, like
Whether or not we went to the moon.
stuff like that. Like
Now see, like stuff like that is just kind of fun because, you know, I'm sure if you said that to Buzz Aldrin, he'd punch you in the face. But that's okay. You know, I mean that's what I'm saying, is that because it's something that like I am so 1,000% on board with that whole idea. Other than these fuckers ruin everything.
yeah, that's true.
They've ruined everything.
Right.
I mean, you know, if you like to wear Hawaiian shirts, apparently you can't do that if you're a white guy, because now that's what fucking Nazis wear. I mean, fuck.
Yeah, yeah.
It's getting tough to just be a dude, you know. Like I said, I'm with you, and shit, even JFK, I was, you know, I can get sucked into that whole. I mean, there's so much that is, and that was supposed to be stuff that like information was supposed to get released, but then it didn't because, you know, people are still alive that were involved. But then I thought, like, when Bush Senior passed, I thought maybe that would be the moment when more stuff would come out, because like he was like maybe the last guy involved. And
right. He was director of the CIA at the time.
Maybe he liked to do field work.
I don't know.
But I'm just, and even that is a whole crazy story. I mean, the story of George Senior Bush and his fighter. What was it? Like, he was the only survivor from his fighter squadron.
Yeah.
In fucking World War II or some crazy shit.
Yeah.
Like, he was the only survivor.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's suspicious.
It's yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, no, I get it. I mean,
but like I said, I mean,
people can ruin anything, but I think there are some good stories that you can talk about.
And I would
like here's another one. Here's another one that's close to my heart, and I have done so much research on this. DB Cooper
is flat.
DB Cooper,
that fucker.
Right? DB Cooper comes up in the news every couple years.
Even back there?
Yes.
I figure only people out here gave a shit.
No. There was a story that came out, I want to say probably 6 or so months before Corona happened, that somebody said that their relative, somebody that lived in North Carolina, said they were relatives with the DB Cooper.
Nice.
And I'm like, y'all know about DB Cooper? I'm like, that fool flew over my house. You know,
yeah,
like, no, he really flew over your house, you know?
No, for sure. And stuff like that, you know, I mean, that's fun stuff. I mean, just those things, I mean, those are a hoot. And like I say, you know,
because here's the deal. I can't draw a line.
I shouldn't let people ruin shit for me.
Right. No, I gotcha.
I get that.
I can't draw a line between DB Cooper and people storming the Capitol. Like JFK, you could theoretically draw a line to some of these QAnon folks.
But I don't know, because I seriously, I have zero idea of what that nonsense is. Like, because even when I first started hearing about it, I was like, that sounds like some stupid bullshit, you know, that is honestly, because what that sounds like to me, here's the thing. I believe cyber attacks are warfare. I've seen my share of army commercials to come join the army, because the new army is here tapping at your fucking computer, saving us from the cyber attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel pretty confident that that shit's real, and that shit's kind of important.
Well, we have a Space Force now. I mean, that covers.
They legitimately jacked Star Trek's logo for that.
They did.
I mean, they straight ripped it. Like,
they did.
Fuck you, what are you going to do?
They did. They did. They did.
I mean, honestly, if Star Trek was owned by Disney, they wouldn't be doing that shit.
No, we got a point there.
I'm just saying. That's how you Star Trek ain't owned by Disney. I don't know. As far as like
I probably know more about that stuff today than I did on January 6th, and I don't know that I feel good about what I know. I don't.
I don't know why you would pollute your brain with that shit, but other than to be, I don't know why you pollute your brain with that shit, honestly, because it's poison, and I am a firm believer, again, that Facebook should be shot into the sun.
So I've got a guy who I went to high school with. I don't think you know this guy, who believes this stuff up and down. And he used to live in Portland. He now lives in a state neither one of us live in. I won't call him out. He believes this stuff up and down, like up and down. And I engaged him one day just thinking that he was like just kind of joking around, kind of being a troll. No, he believes this stuff. And he's been giving money to these people. And the stuff that he's been telling me, like, is scary. Like, people really believe this stuff. And you saw it. It manifested itself on January the 6th. And these were people who believed in Donald Trump as their Lord and Savior. And that is not hyperbole.
And where do most of those folks interact?
They were on 4chan is mainly where these guys are.
That could be another one that could be ejected to the Cosmic Center of our.
These guys are on Reddit and 4chan is mainly where these guys are.
Okay.
Facebook kicked these people off 2 years ago. And I was on Reddit looking for something else. What's that?
But Facebook propagates a ton of Q shit, don't they? I mean,
yeah, but these are like these are the people that were at the Capitol. Like my friend, guy I went to high school with, wasn't there, but would have been there if he could. He was kicked off Facebook years ago. And I was on Reddit looking for some Pokemon Go stuff, and I saw his name, and I'm like, oh, I remember him. He wasn't on the Pokemon site, but it was, I just saw his name as, it was above one of the things I was looking at. I clicked on his name, hometown, Portland, Oregon. And I'm like, dude, did we go to Central together? He was like, what's up, man? So we started talking, right? Just started talking. And slowly but surely, he started bringing up all this other stuff. Like he was almost trying to recruit me. And I'm like,
I'm feeling you out a little bit.
And I'm like, dude, you're kidding, right? Like, if I started saying just some wacky stuff to you, you'd be like, dude, like, all right, this is not funny. Like, and I'm like, you don't really believe this stuff. And he was like, this is going to happen. I've been told, I've been given intel. And when someone is telling you something and they use the word intel, you should just stop the conversation. I've been given intel. So he was telling me that a bunch of people were going to DC on the 6th, and he would love to be there. He just couldn't make it work, and they were going to take a stand, and they were going to, and then it happened. And it wasn't like, oh my God, he told me something I didn't know, because I mean, it was all over everywhere that Trump was having a rally on the 6th. And then he started talking about all this other stuff. And I'm like, thinking to myself, this dude really believes this stuff. And it was like, I wanted to like block him, but at the same time, like, it's almost fascinating to see somebody be manipulated in a way to where they believe this level of conspiracy.
So what do you think is running that show then?
Apparently some dude named Q, who's a government informant.
No. I ain't asking for what the bullshit story is that all the dipshits believe. I'm asking you.
I don't know. I mean, my critical mind tells me that like everything else is probably an inside job, and there's probably some government connection to it. Not in some conspiracy way, but just some type of government connection. Somebody who, if someone says I got to lay out what I think it's probably someone who was either ex-military or ex-government, who's disillusioned and crazy and knows enough to be dangerous, is probably behind all this. Not connected to any official government agency, but somebody who was like an ex-special forces guy who saw a lot of stuff that he probably shouldn't have seen or probably shouldn't talk about, and has his own wild thoughts. That's what I honestly think is behind all that. I don't know where you think of that.
My bet?
Yeah.
It's Russia. 100%.
You think it's Russia?
100%. And here's why. they've embraced the power of the internet, the true power of the internet, the propaganda power of the internet. They have. They have invested shit all in their, anything like that they could projecting force across the globe, right?
Right.
That's what the name of the game is. We do it with aircraft carriers, bombs, and strike groups, and commandos. They do it with a bunch of motherfuckers in some Adidas tracksuits, a carton of fucking Pall Malls, and laptops and message boards.
Right.
And they appreciate the bullhorn that is the internet. They appreciate the power of disinformation. They appreciate how easy it is to influence people.
So do you think that goes to the gullibility of people to believe what they see online?
Of course.
So what's the root cause of that? Do people want to believe that stuff? Or do you think they've seen it enough to where they're forced to believe it?
Both.
Because I have seen people who I'm loosely tied to, either through marriage, former marriage, friendship, that will share a meme or a cartoon, something about Obama, something about Michelle Obama. And I think they want to believe it. I think they know it's not true, but they want to believe it.
Okay.
And it's so obviously false that it's not even funny. I'm sure you've seen stuff like that. And I'm sure you're right. That probably comes from Russia. But I think there's...
It may not. I mean, it may come from fucking Cletus in Alabama.
It could. No. But I think there's a certain segment of the population that wants to believe stuff is true, right? Because through all the studies and all the misinformation on Facebook, it's come from the older generation that will read something and share it.
Yeah, for sure.
And treat it as gospel.
So my
thing is, these Russians are smart. How did they know that they could infiltrate the older population and they would get the older population to carry their water and spread their message? Is it because the young people are just as savvy as they are?
I don't.
And that the uncles and aunts and grandpas and grandmas would say, "Oh my God, Joe Biden is eating children."
Here's the mistake that you're making: is that it is some. You seem to be painting like this picture of like behind me is like this huge tapestry of lines connected of how all of the plan is going to go. Now, it's more on the roll. It's more on the fly. Take it as it goes. Opportunity presents itself and you capture it. And then you move on and you create more opportunity. You capture that.
So you spread disinformation to all.
For example, when Facebook was completely funded by Russia back in 2009, say, I'm sure that might have been a coincidence to let us where we are today.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it was.
You don't think it was the plan?
I think that it would be ignorant to believe that there's coincidence that our historic adversary invests redonkulous amounts of money in a platform like Facebook in its infancy.
So you think they got lucky?
And then somehow that if they invested that much, they might have some control over it.
Do you think they got lucky because they invested money into MySpace and all these other?
They threw it all over the place, of course.
So do you think they got lucky that Facebook turned into the behemoth that it did? Because
I mean, they got lucky when they were bankrolling the Trumps. I mean, and Trump was bragging about getting all their money from Russia.
So
that might be a coincidence, but I don't believe that it is.
So do you think Russia is bankrolling a lot of things that haven't hit yet? Because if they were giving Trump money, think about it this way. If they were giving Trump money back in the 80s and 90s.
I don't believe he was the only person they gave money to.
That's what I was going to say.
Of course.
So That's exactly my point. So I would say it's fair to say they were probably giving money to a lot of people, a handful of people, 50 people,
Yes.
right? So I don't want to be naive. So tomorrow, somebody in the United States, some company is going to get a wire transfer from Russia, along with a lot of other companies that 5 years from now will know about, but it'll be too late. Is that a safe assumption? Because at the time, so follow my logic. At the time, MySpace came out first, right? And then there was Friendster.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I could. I mean, sure. There's been zero repercussion. I mean, again, if what I believe is accurate, that Russia, as a government, or the oligarchs that run it, have spent their money and resources buying up influence, buying up, or, and again, this is also, let's recall that the president of Russia was the head of the KGB.
Absolutely.
He was a spy.
Absolutely.
If anybody could appreciate the power of the internet, the former head of the KGB might.
So could we say the same about George Bush Sr., who was the director of the CIA?
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant Junior for a second.
No. The smart.
All right. Sorry. Yeah. If George Sr. could have had access to the internet, I think he would have had an erection that he would have been ashamed of. I mean, again, he was the head of the CIA.
Right.
Under his tenure, I believe, were some of the examples we were referencing earlier, say with Charles Manson. I was not the Bay of Pigs in that tenure as well.
Sure was.
Okay. In that Bay of Pigs operation, there are documents where they were surmising, I believe that was Operation Northwoods.
Yes, where they were going to do the cigar?
No, where they were going to bomb American cities.
Oh, and then blame it on
Cuba and Russia.
Yeah, blame it on Cuba and Russia. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that you are correct.
So that guy,
yeah,
you think that guy might have abused the internet?
So, short of turning off the internet, how do you fix it?
Glad you asked. You turn off the internet in Russia. So here's something else for the new administration, and I've already seen that he's made some like posturings and comments to Russia. You know, there's a new sheriff in town, kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would like to see massive sanctions. That seems to be the only thing that ever works is sanctions.
You cut off somebody's money and it makes a difference.
Here's what I hate about that, though. You're punishing the people of Russia.
Right.
And what the fuck did they do to deserve it? Those people have more fucking stones than pretty much any American does, because all these dipshits that put on all their Kevlar and stormed the Capitol and got fucking put down like bitches by what, maybe 5 decent fucking security guards with fucking pistols?
Right.
With fucking pistols.
Yeah.
You fucking put down the revolution. Good job. Bigger studs. Meanwhile, in Russia, these fools are out there against like the fucking army. They don't give a shit. They're out there. Those people deserve our support.
Those. So if it's not sanctions,
here's my question.
How do you? Yeah.
I have had to sit through countless hours, whether it was Fat Steven Seagal, whether it was fucking Van Damme, whether it was Bruce Willis, whether it was some other fucking guy that was gonna come save the day. I have sat through more fucking action movies than I fucking care to admit, that led me to believe that we have amazing abilities to project force across this planet with pinpoint precision.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that motherfucker even drawing a breath? I ask you. Why is it that we can't make him not be here anymore? Why can't he go to Guantanamo and end up there?
Do you think he's the problem, or do you think it's his government, his administration? Because I would argue
All
if
the people
he
cutting his checks. I mean,
I would argue if he keeled over tomorrow, there would be
could be the
someone
vacuum. I get it.
just as evil ready to take his place with just as much vitriol for us.
When has that ever stopped us in the past?
I mean, we took
All
out
we
the
have ever done in South America and Central America is that very same thing.
right. I mean, we took out the Shah in Iran, and I don't know. I don't. I mean,
We took out Saddam Hussein. We took out Osama.
well, we took out Saddam's government,
and then they took him out, but we helped. Come on.
right? Yeah, but my
So
point
fine.
is, if you just pluck Putin off
I
and
get
throw
it,
him in
exactly.
Guantanamo, you got to take out the whole system.
And I believe that we could, because I've seen so many movies that show that we can do so many amazing things with pinpoint precision and amazing coordination that suddenly many heads explode all at once, and then suddenly, ta-da, it's a brand new day in Russia.
Was that movie Tracers where they made everybody's heads explode?
You know what I'm saying? No, I'm just talking about like so many action movies of like, you know, all the snipers shoot at the same time, and suddenly
Right.
all the mafia dons, poof, you know.
Right.
And I know, like I said, it's too many bad movies, but and I understand that you create a power vacuum, and that vacuum will get filled by probably somebody as bad or worse. But the current trajectory or the previous embracement of them.
Well, I was going to say there was no fighting against Russia. It was a hand holding event. It was a let me rub your feet.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. And so, you know, the most generous way of putting that was that we were soft on them. My way of putting that was that we were run by them.
Right.
And now apparently we're okay, fine, we're not. So how do we drop the hammer on them to keep them from fucking with us continuously? Because I believe that they are, and that they do it in non-conventional ways. They're not shooting anybody. They're not
Right.
dropping any bombs.
Right.
But if we are trying to be so ignorant as to say that we are not at war with them right now, after they just committed the biggest cyber attack that we've ever even experienced, and that I don't think that any of us normal people comprehend what probably actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I mean, again, that was a direct attack on our country. That's not even, let alone,
okay,
you know,
let me ask you this.
all of the propaganda machine that we essentially allow to happen.
Let me ask you this. All right, I know we're running long and we got to go.
Now
Does this make me a conspiracy theorist? Follow me on this. January 6th. These QAnon crazies go in and do their thing. You got two guys in that group who know what the hell they're doing, who go into certain offices, take laptops, take papers. They wind up back in Moscow.
For sure.
Does that make me a conspiracy theorist to think that, I don't want to say that that was an operation, but somebody in Putin's party took advantage of that, knew that was going to happen, and maybe didn't have anything to do with it except they're going to climb in a window and they know what office to go into and what drawer to open and what papers to get, and they end up back in Russia. Does that make me a conspiracy theorist to think that that could have occurred?
That's just that's what I've been saying for the last 15 minutes, is that Q is Russia. If Q coordinated this whole thing and got all those idiots there in the first place, if Russia's behind that, kind of fits with your narrative, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Again, if anybody in the world is good at what this whole operation was, which again, I've read too many Tom Clancy books. I get it. But damn, even if Tom Clancy came out with this one, people will go, man, get the fuck back to work because this is stupid. Nobody's going to believe this.
Right.
But the smoke screen of what that whole thing was with a few operatives, but there were elements of that whole day that, you know, I mean, they were not just, a riot that got out of hand. Man, that's stupid. That was a direct manipulation by a foreign adversary, spreading massive propaganda, manipulating all those folks to show up for a big parade, led by their leader, who, again, in my opinion, is a direct freaking pawn of that adversary, who was completely complicit and in on the game. Also, that adversary could get that handful, like those 5 operators, to go do whatever they're actually there to do. And the big smokescreen shit show was just that, a smokescreen shit show. And if it actually was successful, hey, that's great. You get to go hang your entire government. That's good for Russia too. More chaos.
Right. But what if but I'm saying, like, the road you're going down, while it might be the truth, could potentially sound like the conspiracy theory that you don't necessarily want to put out there. You know what I mean? Because what if the whole thing, what if the whole objective was to get into one specific office and get one piece of paper?
I think that's absolutely possible.
Right?
I think that's
what I mean. And then everything else that happened was a bonus.
Correct. I think that's 100% plausible, if not actual. The only thing that would make me detract that there were other primary operations in place was some of the reports that I've read of, and I don't remember what senator it was, but it was one of the senators had like the alarm removed from under her desk. I mean, that's weird.
Right. Yeah.
There was another thing too. That one really stuck out. But there was another one that popped up just yesterday, the day before, just the amount of pre-warning, pre-planning evidence. Right. What was it that they were attempting? There were like security doors in these tunnels where all the senators were, and these security doors were supposed to shut, but the good old Proud Boys, those clever dogs, somehow knew to jam those doors. That seems like kind of specific knowledge. However, would you get such knowledge?
Right.
How would you even think to? Because at one point they were going to gas everybody in there. Right. Again, so these are all texts and emails and posts on social media of all these people coordinating with themselves. That fellow Lynn Wood, the attorney for the president at the time, directing people. They have Pence shoot him first. How is that person not in jail right now?
Oh no!
Honestly, I don't.
I mean, they constructed a gallows.
But again, if this is all like what the new AG is for, then okay, great. Then we'll start picking up these people that were the actual, orchestrators of this event. I mean, I get it that they picked up a handful of the participants.
Well, I think we worked at the law firm for a long time. You remember how the government did this? They pick up the low level people to get all the information and the intel, and then they build their case on up. You don't go pick up the top of the heap until you've got 4 or 5 people that are gonna flip on the next person up and the next person up. I think they're following traditional plan. Is by the time they get to the guy they want to arrest, they don't even need him because they've got 40 people pointing the finger at him, and there's no way he can refute it.
Which, some people would argue that's why you should have had, witnesses come in to say, Donald Trump told me to go to the Capitol and storm the Capitol.
But here's the thing, though. But if you do that, jeopardy attaches, and then you can't charge him in a criminal court. Right. So if you have that at one trial, I mean, you remember this stuff. Once jeopardy attaches, you can't use it again. So, I mean, like I said, it's
from a federal charge to a state charge, really?
There is no state charge because DC is not a state. All this stuff is federal. There is no state charges because DC.
Yeah, not residing. I get you.
Yeah, DC does not reside in a state. It's all
another thing the Democrats may want to rectify.
Oh man, they've been talking about that for 50 years.
After they have, and
maybe even longer, 75 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, do something about that. Good. Well, yeah, well, we can talk about whether or not we went to the moon or if the Earth is really flat. And
I'd rather talk about something that's like kind of in dispute. I mean, like, I've been on a plane. You've been on a plane. I've seen the curvature of the Earth. I mean, like,
that's fake news.
Like somebody I like that's not even fun to talk about. Like,
fuck, man. I mean, the
JFK thing is kind of fun because there's like legitimately 10 different ways stuff could have happened, and like all 10 of them could be real, or all 10 of them could be fake.
But then I hear people like, and just because why not just keep talking about it? But like, that wasn't that hard of a shot. Like, oh, okay, Mr. fucking Hunter Extraordinaire. Like, sure thing. But yeah, no, I mean that one, and yeah, like I say, I mean some of those ones I could try to dig up some other fun ones. Even talking about some of those the crazy operations that have been made public. Whether it was the paperclip stuff of bringing over Nazis to be Americans and
Yeah.
work on our
Operation,
for us.
Operation Paperclip.
Yeah. You know, build our rockets, please.
Werner von Braun.
Yeah, no, I mean that. I mean, there's a lot of other fools we brought over too. I mean,
yeah.
For.
Well, here's the thing about that. There was a bidding war between us and the Russians on who were going to get which people.
Oh, I think we did more than bid. I think there was some shooting going on and whatnot.
Yeah.
No, there was all sorts of stuff about that, like trying to snatch people away from the Russians before they got them, and
literally kidnapping people. Literally.
Oh no, they were snatching them right up,
literally kidnapping people.
Yeah, no. And now you're going to be an American, and your name is going to be Smith instead of whatever.
Right.
And you're going to live in Pasadena. I mean. And that's crazy. And that's all stuff that's like out there.
Right. That's the stuff we know.
That's the stuff that's the stuff that they feel good admitting.
Right. Yeah. And there's stuff that there's stuff that they won't admit.
And I mean, that's not even talking about aliens and how there must not be any, nor is there any Sasquatch, because we would have 9,000 pictures of them by now. But we don't.
Easy on the Sasquatch. The Sasquatch is an Oregonian.
Is Squatch? Do they do Squatch in your area, or is that strictly out here?
It's more of a Western thing.
There's got to be something over there. I mean, like a chupacabra or something.
Something, but I mean, like the real Bigfoot, and quote me on this, lives on Mount Hood. Say what you want. Bigfoot lives on Mount Hood. I don't care what you say. Lives on Mount Hood.
Hey, no, man. I mean, dude. I mean, you're not the.
He lives, and if you want to get specific, he lives in Rhododendron. He lives in Rhododendron, Oregon. Don't tell me nothing else.
And how'd you come by that knowledge?
I can't disclose that.
As somebody that's been through Rhododendron like a number of times, and it is possible because like I've gone through there like on my bike, and I mean, when you're out in the big woods, you're out in the big woods.
Yeah. No, but I think that I mean, here's the deal. This is what we know as far as facts.
About Squatch?
About Squatch. We know that there is a missing link, right? There's humans, and there's the Neanderthal, and then there's
no they have them all. They have them all lined up. There's no
no. There's one that's there's the
I don't think there is.
Check it. No, there's a leap from the ape person to the
and there was like another one they found like I don't know however long back. I mean
So I think that
and I don't know how Squatch would be it. I mean he's like 7 feet fucking tall. I mean how is that like the missing link between apes and us?
I think there's I think there's something that lives in the Himalaya mountains that remember
rhododendron.
I know I was just joking about rhododendron. Okay, remember when we were talking a couple weeks ago about those tribes in Thailand or wherever they were, those islands that had never been contacted before? Remember we were talking about that?
Is this going to be Squatch related?
I think
it is.
Yes, it is. So if you look at like our old DNA, if you just roll back to
as I often do. Yes.
Right. And you talked about how people kind of came up and then some people took a left and some people took a right and these people got stuck on an island.
I'm pretty sure that's how evolution is described. Yes.
Exactly.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like when they came out of Africa, like take a left.
They came out of Africa. Some people took a left. Some people took a right.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, I'm with you.
And maybe I want to believe this.
Squatch took a right.
But I don't see. It's not far fetched to me that a group went off and got stuck somewhere, and then the continental divide, like Madagascar, right? Are split off from Africa, and there's animals on Madagascar that they can't link to anywhere else in the world, like. Right. So I don't think it's not a stretch for me that as humans evolved, came out of Africa, that some got stuck somewhere and evolved on their own. But
those people were called like the Chinook or, other tribes from around here. They were no Squatch.
No, I was completely joking about Sasquatch living on Mount Hood. That was a
Yeah,
joke.
but I'm still just following you, like, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
but wherever those folks, like, there's no Squatch.
No, I know. I was joking about that. That was.
Okay, I mean, but again, some folks, like, I have stood face to face with grown adults near rhododendron. In fact,
I just pulled that out of the air because I know you bike through there.
yeah, well, they know that too. Apparently, they're very serious.
Right.
And I mean, what in the fuck do you say to people that are serious about that shit? You're like, come on, man.
No, but my point is, so you look at that tribe that's stuck on that island,
Yes.
and this is the first time in however long people believe we've been on this earth, 15, 20, 100,000 years, whatever it is. We've never seen these people before. If we were to test their DNA, it doesn't link up to anybody because they've been on this island since Egypt was built in pyramids, right? They're completely cut off.
Yep.
So I don't find it hard to believe that somewhere on that trek that there's not a Neanderthal lineage that is still around, that is uninhabited to the rest of the population of Earth, because we know this 5,000 people on this island, this is the first time we've ever seen them, right? So let's just go back to year zero, right? They've been there at least 2,000 years, right? We know this. I think that there's parts on this earth where there's other people like them, but that might come from a different evolutionary chain that could give us the link between old school Africa and today.
I dig it. I'm just kind of more in the camp now that, like, literally every human on this planet has a camera in their pocket. Like, almost every, I mean, even in like the most remote village in wherever the shit stand,
right?
It seems like still people got a damn phone.
Right. So these guys that they just found,
yeah.
I think that there's other people that haven't been found in remote. Okay. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Because these people,
I mean, with the global mapping that we have going and satellites, and
that's how they found those lost tribes of Brazil, was through the global mapping.
Right. But like those tribes in India where that good Christian fellow went and got himself killed.
Yeah.
They've known about those folks all along. They go, nah, you don't fuck with them. Nobody fucks with them. We just leave them alone. I mean, like, they've known about them for a long time. That's what's kind of, at least that group. Because I hear what you're saying. There's got to be some groups that, like, nobody's even found before. There's got to be some unexplored areas of the world. As small as the world feels like sometimes, it's still pretty big.
Or not even people that are alive, but I mean, okay. So look at the American Southwest, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah. 2 million years ago, that was,
I think it was like ocean, wasn't it?
It was an ocean, right? They found like fossilized palm trees, right?
I think haven't they found like sea animal fossils, like
that too, mountains and shit too, right? Right. So who's to say that there's not bones there of a humanoid something that
the missing link?
The missing link. Like, we know that, like, what's the thing that, like, Darwin, like, survival of the fittest, right? So we know all these tribes came out of Africa, and you and I are here today because our ancestors were the strongest ones to come out of Africa and to go to other parts of the world. So we know there was families and entire villages that died out because they weren't the strongest. And there was one dude that came out of that village that was the strongest and met some chick, and then they had a family. You know what I mean? So there's all these people that, like, you know, you go from like the ape, and then it, you know, you see the thing where it like starts to stand up, and at the end of it, it's got like a top hat and a briefcase, right? As you go back, there's got to be some stuff that we can learn from the bones of these people. I'm not saying they're alive like the people in India.
Yeah,
but I'm saying
100%.
I'm saying that before people crossed that land bridge, some people didn't make it across the land bridge. We know this. The strongest ones made it across the land bridge into North America, down through South America, over to the East Coast, and all along the weaker ones died off. We know this. It's just evolution. I'm saying there's a whole lot of stuff that we could go and dig up, and it might be under the Rocky Mountains or under the glaciers that could tell us about what we have going on today. And it's not Bigfoot, but there's a lot of stuff that we don't know from what's the chick's name? The little monkey chick that they found in Africa that's like 4.5 million years old. You know, the not Eve. They gave her some.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. There's a big jump between her and me, or her and you.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff happened. And I'm just saying that maybe under the glacier in Mount Hood, they might find some bones that tell us a story.
So maybe in addition to, or instead of, or whatnot, to conspiracies, you know, like a future show could be about, you know, the ancient past. I'm a huge fan of ancient past, history and whatnot. It's just interesting to me. And one of the things that's super interesting to me is, I mean, just how much has to be below sea level. You know, I mean, if we look at, you know, the you know, history of the planet, and you know, the ice ages and whatnot, and when they occurred, and how high or low the oceans really were at those times, and
right.
And with that in mind, when it was an ice age, the oceans were much lower, right? Because all the ice, you know, all the water,
compacted,
right? So all the oceans are much lower. And if humans still do what humans always do, where do humans live? They live by the water.
They live by the water, absolutely.
Right? So if the water's really low, all your cities are way down there.
Exactly.
And if the oceans come up, now their cities are way down there. So
that was my point about like the Southwest, right? If that was all a big tropical sea, people were living all around the beaches over there.
Yeah, for sure. You
know?
Well, I mean, like even like with those, was it the Anasazi people, like the holes in the side of the hills?
Yep.
I mean, that might have been like waterfront property.
Yeah, it probably was waterfront.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Like or some shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just like you look at the pyramids on the Giza Plateau, they've looked at like satellite maps and seen like the Nile River came right up to the damn pyramid.
That's what I'm saying. You know, I mean,
you know, so they're saying, how did they build these pyramids? They had well, I mean, we can get into that later, but the Nile River was like right there. It's like 10 miles away now, but at that time it was there. They just floated shit up through the, you know, so I mean, all kinds of stuff like that.
Well, and like well, I'll leave on that the note of Atlantis, because that's right. And there's a place called, I think I'm gonna get this wrong, but it's called like the Recot structure, and it's in Africa, like in the northwest part of Africa.
Okay.
And it's a really unique looking structure. I mean, it is unusually circular, and in the middle of the just shit and desert now. But when looked at overlays with, you know, from the ice age, where the oceans were at that time, there was a lot of water there.
Right. Yeah.
And in fact, there was probably so much water there that, based on what the way the structure looked, because it's like a series of concentric rings.
Which is kind of what Plato said Atlantis would be.
And if there was water there, you're going, damn. And I mean, imagining like erosion over time, and like, you know, that we're only seeing just the bits and pieces and crumbling things that are left. That's pretty cool. That's pretty interesting. And so, you know, what we can check out the Recart structure. I think I want to say that's what
I'll look it up.
And
then the other thing we talked about, I think it was last week, of the question I raised of like pyramids, like why was the pyramidal structure like fundamental to like every culture in the ancient world? Like, how did people in Mexico, or what's Mexico now, know that people in Egypt were building a pyramid? And how did people in what's now Bosnia know that people in Mexico were building a pyramid? You said,
who did, and how did they all default to pyramid? You know,
right? And you know, you said, you know, you brought up a good point of some of the Mayans were really good longshoremen. We know this. We know the Mayans went long distances in these big ass trees that they carved out a boat. Who's to say that they didn't cruise all the way to Africa and find their way to Egypt. I mean, and then come back and go, hey, we need to build this.
Well, and I don't think it's any coincidence that like somehow we only think of like brave Viking warriors as the only people of ancient times that conquered the seas.
Exactly.
I mean, come on, man.
Right.
I get it. Vikings are neat, but you know, I mean, we weren't the only ones doing shit back then. Oh, I think I lost you and you locked up and froze on me. I'll carry the torch. There was a lot of folks doing a lot of good stuff and sailing the high seas. And no, man, I'm getting text from Jamal telling me that I froze. Trying to text sucks. Well, folks, it's just you and I now. We had a technical difficulty, it seems. And Jamal would like me to forward on his thanks for you all tuning in. He wants me to emphasize that nothing is hotter than his mixtape, I believe is how that goes. I'm sure I'll get corrected. But yeah, we appreciate you. Way long show. This might get divided up into a couple of shows because it felt like a couple of shows. But yeah, stay good, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you next time around. Take care.